thought provokers, leaders, activists, and those who are consciously engaged and active in the fight for justice and equality for all. We, as National Action Network's Youth Huddle, is operating under the auspices of National Action Network, which is an organization, one of the leading civil rights organizations in the country, founded in 1991 by the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, with injustice in mind and peace in mind. And so he coined the phrase, no justice, no peace, that we so desperately chant every day in protests all across America and demonstrations all across the world. We hear no justice, no peace. Well, Reverend Al Sharpton coined that phrase in 1991 with justice on his mind and peace on his mind, as he has helped to really raise the volume in communities and raise the volume for voice for the voiceless. And he is our leader at National Action Network, and National Action Network's Youth Huddle operates under the auspices of National Action Network with injustice in mind, with justice and peace on our minds. And so we come together again today, another Monday, for our virtual huddle gatherings. We've been meeting online for the past few weeks in light of COVID-19, this pandemic that has really been a detriment to not only us as people of color, but to the world. But we still feel the need to be active. We still feel the need to engage. We still feel the need to convene and to have necessary conversations on solutions and activating the issues that are most important to us. And so tonight we will hear more updates from various leaders, young thought provokers who are on the ground daily making a difference, and who are really hitting the pavement, raising the volume to be present, as I said, for these issues that mean so much to us and these issues that we are so desperately trying to fight to overcome. And so tonight, before we hear from various updates and various leaders who are on the ground making a difference, I do want to open us up in prayer, in the spirit of prayer, in the spirit of coming together, and in the spirit of paying homage and definitely virtue to our rising Savior. So without further ado, I do want to introduce one of the New York City liaisons to the President for National Action Network, Minister Stephen Marshall, to open us up. Good evening.
Good evening. Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for a new life today, a day we've never seen. Father, we ask you for divine strategy tonight to invoke your presence in the conversation, that we not only leave empowered and uplifted, but you get all the glory. Father, we ask you to bless our national president, Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, as he steers the ship that will lead us to justice. And Father, bless all the youth leaders. Bless the Huddle and its founders, Father. We ask you now to give us pure and perfect peace, that all be protected. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Minister Marshall, and thank you for your leadership and for all that you're doing to make a difference. I want to introduce one of the National Action Network's Youth Huddle advisors, and she is also the House of Justice Manager for National Action Network. Sister Patrice Perry, are you on to give us our Black History Fact of the day? Good evening. Patrice?
I'm mute, sorry. Good evening.
Good evening.
So today's Black History Fact is Juneteenth. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Juneteenth is a celebration of Black history and freedom that relatively few white Americans have heard, or until recently. Now suddenly, Juneteenth is a prominent on the nation's calendar, propelled by sweeping protests against racial injustice, a controversial decision by President Donald Trump, and the decision by some high-profile companies to make the day a holiday for all. The holiday gets its name from June 19th, 1865. That's the day the Union Army arrived in Galveston, Texas, to announce that all African-American slaves in states were free in accordance with President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. The state was the last in the Confederacy to receive word that the Civil War was over, and that slavery had been abolished, and the last where the Federal Army established its authority. The significance of Juneteenth. As early as 1866, freed African Americans in Texas held a celebration on the date to commemorate the slavery, as Black families immigrated from the southern U.S. after the Great Depression. Observance spread throughout the country. In 1968, shortly after Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination, his Poor People's Campaign held a Juneteenth Solidarity Day, giving the holiday a new prominence in the civil rights movement.
All right. All right. That's great. Thank you, Sister Perry. And in the spirit of that, National Action Network, many people see Nan on the ground doing a lot of demonstrating, protesting, advocating victims of violence, but not really understanding the legislative component of that. And as we talk about Juneteenth and the liberation of our people, the anniversary of the liberation of our people, we have to be mindful of the different layers that come with victories. So, and to just give a sense of that, I did receive, and I want to share, our Washington, D.C. Bureau has been advocating on many levels. As you know, NAN advocates on many different levels, but one of the top levels is that of legislation. How can we impact legislation? And so I did receive an update today from our Washington Bureau that I wanted to share of National Action Network, on the ground, and a testament to National Action Network's advocacy. And I know that we will be joined by some of the DC Bureau staff members later on to talk about a lot of the work on the ground. I'm trying to find by time so I can find this information. Okay, here I have it. But I do want our young people to be aware of some of the legislation before we go into some of our speakers tonight. And just to know that after almost 3 weeks of demonstrations following the death of George Floyd, many of you know we've been hitting the pavement for 3 weeks now, saying in the name of I Can't Breathe, in the name of injustice, saying that this situation of George Floyd has raised a conscious effort of demonstrating, a conscious effort that something to be done about the injustice. But America seems to be now at a threshold moment. If you can please mute your phone, not talking, so that everyone can hear. But the polling shows attitudes shifting more in favor of protesters and embracing the potential for change when it comes to how policing is actually done in this country. Police departments are in at least half a dozen states, have already moved to make reforms, but when it's not clear how far Washington will go. And so many protesters have made defund the police a rallying cry, but most Democrats on Capitol Hill and the party's presumptive presidential nominee, Joe Biden, have stayed away from the language. But instead, House Democrats led by the Congressional Black Caucus introduced the Justice and Policing Act of 2020 that would, among its provisions, number one, it will ban chokeholds at the federal level and condition federal funding on state and local governments doing the same. Number two, it will ban no-knock warrants in federal drug cases and tie federal funding to state and local governments, banning them as well. Number three, it will weaken qualified immunity and make it easier to pursue criminal and civil action against the police. Number four, it will create a national registry of police misconduct. Number five, it will require body cameras for federal law enforcement officers and require that state and local forces ensure camera use as well. Number six, it will make it easier to have independent investigations of police departments. And number seven, making lynching a federal hate crime. So in the Senate tomorrow, there will be a hearing where Republicans who are holding basically a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, it will be happening tomorrow, on police reform, and they're set to release their own legislation this week. So I just want everyone to know, as we are out rallying, as we're out protesting and demonstrating, that on a legislative level, there is also action that is being taken to make sure that the laws are set in place to change that will prohibit these types of actions and reactions, honestly, to be able to happen in the future. So I just want you all to be aware of, young people, as we are organizing in many different facets and many different spaces, that you understand that it is a combination of both the demonstrative efforts and the legislative efforts that will help to get actual systemic change. So I just wanted to make sure everyone is aware of that. And with that said, I do want to introduce some of the young leaders that have been on the ground working in the demonstrative space, but also understanding that that affects the legislative piece as well. And so I want to bring on our president of National Action Network's Youth Huddle, Malaysia Freeman, who has been really steadfast and vocal on the ground at many different levels. But she's on with us tonight. I wanted to bring Malaysia on. Malaysia, are you there? Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes. So tell us what's been going on. What have you been doing on the ground? What's been the temperament of young people in the wake of this demonstrative phase that we're in, of wanting to protest, wanting to demonstrate, wanting to get out and raise our voice? What's the temperament on the ground with young people? And can you speak to your specific things that you've been doing specifically on the ground to work?
Good evening, everyone. So recently I've been attending a lot of peaceful protests throughout the pandemic. I've been going out outside, wearing my mask, making sure I have hand sanitizer, and attending different peaceful protests. But I felt like on my end, I wasn't doing enough, so I started using my social media platform more and I also started researching like my history to make sure I know more about what's going on and what's effective ways to protest. But recently I attended a rally on the 13th in front of 125th that my friend Aaliyah actually organized, where she got different youth from different organizations to come together to form a rally so that we could talk about the injustices in our community and what's going on, and so that youth can know that where it's now our time to take the lead, to go on the forefront, to be the ones in the community to speak out against these injustices. So lately, I've just been organizing with a whole bunch of different youth, talking to them about what's going on so that we can know that our voices will be heard, that we are the future, and it's up to us if we want everything in our community to change.
Absolutely. Now, when you say you want everything in your community to change, what are some of the things that you personally want to see change in your community? And it may be things that have already been, that you feel is being fighting for or being advocated for, and some things you may not feel is getting enough attention. What are some of the things that you wish to see change in your community?
One thing that I really want in my community more is within our schools. I go to a charter school, but in our school, the ratio of African American teachers to the ratio of African American students, it's not leveled out. There are more African American students than there are teachers, and I feel like in our community growing up, we need to, in order to be able to understand our history so that we can know what to do in the future, we have to see those of our own complexion, from our community working to teach us more about what's in our community. So one thing that I want to see change is like the amount of African American teachers a part of the education system, because I think oftentimes we get these labels upon us, and then Caucasian teachers come in our community, instead of actually talking to us to see what's wrong or what's the matter or why we're acting certain ways, they just put these disciplinary actions, which is like the school to prison pipeline. So one thing that I want to see change with that is more African American teachers within our schooling. But outside of that, for the policing, I want our police to be able to build connections and bonds with the youth, to let them know that we are able to come to them and talk to them when there is an issue, because nowadays, because of so many police brutality incidents, a lot of youth do not trust cops anymore, and then they go and do things that they shouldn't be doing in the community instead of talking to the cops. Those are two things that I want to see change.
Very good. And I do want to also mention, just putting that out there, if anybody has any questions or any comments, please put those questions and comments in the chat so that we can address them as we have our various speakers come on the platform tonight to speak. We definitely want to make sure that your questions and your comments are being addressed. So please put them in the chat. Malaysia, let's get back with you. So how was you just graduated? You graduated from high school, and we just definitely want to congratulate you again as you are heading to college. what is some of your goals that you have this summer that's moving? I know that you're very active in the community. But right now, I don't know, some young people may feel like helpless because of the whole pandemic going on, and they may not feel like they can be actively involved or actively engaged in a lot of activism or a lot of speaking out to injustice, and still keep up with their studies and prepare to, like, you know, do something that you're doing. Going to college is huge. So what are some of your goals that you have this summer that's going to help keep you in the mindset to do your activism, but as well prepare for this major milestone that you're about to embark in, and that's college?
I'm making sure that I continue throughout the summer, that I continue working in my community to make sure that I get more youth active with activism, whether they're joining National Action Network or coming together so that they can organize rallies or marches so that they have a platform where they can talk about issues within the community. But when I go to college, I'm going to make sure that I continue working against police brutality and gun violence and black on black crime within college, even though I'm not going to still be in New York City.
You know, June is now we're now in June, and it's Gun Violence Awareness Month, and we've seen, you know, countless situations happening over and over in our community, from black on black crime to, you know, police violence. You know, it's a lot of gun violence that we see in our community. And you, as a young person, you know, I'm sure, you know, you can speak to already in your young age, you've seen this happen times in our community. What would you say to young people who feel hopeless or who feel like, you know, there is no way to reform what's been happening? Like, what would you say to that? How would you encourage them, or what would you say to that effect?
I let young people know constantly that that we are the ones who will make a difference and a change. So if we see something in our community that's bothering us, that we feel as if that is detrimental, that is going to hurt the future generations, then it's up to us to stand out, to have these conversations on an open platform. So I tell youth that if you see something going on, talk to your parent about it, figure out what are ways that you can be active in your community, whether that's being an activist or learning about politics so that you could be on a legislative platform and actually making these changes.
All right, Malaysia, if you can stay on with us for a minute, I think that we have some more questions for you. But I do want to bring on Brother Crux Conception on, because you said a lot about, you know, some of the misconceptions or the I would say the disconnect between authorities in the community, and young people. And so I think that it's a good time to bring you in, Crux, because you understand you've been there before in that authoritative position, but you've also been on the other side and understanding from a youth and a young person's perspective how they can feel this disconnect and how they can feel disengaged from, you know, authoritative figures in the community. So can you come on and speak? I know that you've created a platform to actually talk about things just like this. And so I think it'll be a great segue to bring you in and talk about some of the work that you've been doing, and to just talk about in general how we can be more effective on the ground and servicing our young people, to, you know, bridge those relationships and bring those delayed relationships together to be more dynamic. So I'm turning it over to you, brother. Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I can't stay long. Unfortunately, I have to close an event. But I basically, again, we have to, there's another, I don't know if everybody saw the incident with the two young brothers getting arrested for jaywalking. Anybody seen that lately? Okay, you know, first of all, that's that right there. And that's one thing I wanted to tell people. We need to watch words and how we use words, like racial profiling. You say racial profiling to officers that you're trying to talk to, excuse my language, but they'll get up there in a defensive stance on the arm and say, oh, that's horse, you know what. We need to use words like when they say aggressive policing or aggressive tactics, that's racial profiling. I was in a gang unit for 2 years, and 24 years, I wrote your sister, 24 years in law enforcement, I never seen color. I mean, I came in when the OJ verdict was in. I came in the academy when the OJ verdict was in. I almost got kicked out of the academy because I made the comment was if OJ was just a regular brother, he'd be in jail by now. You know, and then so they almost kicked me out of the academy for saying that in Fort Wayne, Indiana. You have to use different words. Like when they say aggressive policing, that's racial profiling. I'm gonna tell you this. Like for instance, Indiana is one of few states that have reflective license plates. And so there's a law, these laws are outdated. There's a law that says that you can, it's an infraction. You can make a traffic stop if you don't have a headlight. I mean, if you don't have a license plate light. And so what the gang unit, that was their bread and butter. What they did, they stopped people for not having a license plate light. But my dad pointed out he had 33 years on the job, and they stopped him. And when they found out who it was, they were just like, oh, your license plate was out. My dad said, that's funny. Indiana is one of 2 states with a reflective license plate. Now, if your head beams are on, wouldn't that reflect your license plate? So why do we need a law like that? Some of these laws are outdated. There's a law that you can arrest a woman in a southern state for not cooking her husband meals. We need to change that. The kids are afraid of us. I was a school resource officer for 5 years, and that helped me out a lot in the gang unit because I knew the kids and I knew how to talk to them. And you know, I used to sit, and the young lady that said something about the schools, she's right. They don't understand these kids. The kids would, they say, hey, Officer Jenkins, would you go get such and such? He's in the hallway. So I'd go get him. I say, hey, man, what's up? Come into my office and talk to me. And they would say, they didn't respect me. She didn't respect me. I'm tired of getting respect. If you see, when I was on the gang unit, my thing was infiltrating. I made fake social media accounts, and I watch gang members, and I befriend them, and with these fake social media accounts. And it's like when you see these accounts on Snapchat and the brothers are waving the guns and the money, it's not because they're violent, it's because they don't get respect. And that's the only way they see it. Money, flashing, holding the money like it's a cell phone and flashing guns. It's 90% of these individuals aren't violent. And it's just that they don't get respect. And they don't get respect. And it's how we talk to these kids. It's how they talk to them. Like, I seen some of the officers talk to these kids, and it's just sad. It's sad how they talk to grown, excuse my language, grown men. Mm-hmm. It's sad, and it makes you cry. And I used to be I grabbed my mic when I had my tactical gear on when I was on the gang unit, and when they beat a brother down, or they say the famous stop resisting, which they didn't say in Atlanta. And I noticed that at the Wendy's. That's the typical thing to say. Stop resisting. You giving them body strokes. Stop resisting. And they're not resisting. They're just saying that to add that in their report, that they yelled stop resisting. But it's how you talk to me. I turned around, I grabbed my mic, my lapel mic on my tactical jacket. I turn around, look at the crowds, and I say, get your damn phones out. Start recording it. Mm-hmm. There should be a hashtag, see something, record something. And we should start teaching our kids that we should start recording. If you see a traffic stop, record it. I don't care if it's just a routine traffic stop, because guess what? 9 people died over just a routine traffic stop. So you never know. Get your phones out, record it. If you're not in a hurry, it's not going to take much of your time. Find out what state you're in, how far you have to be back. Like Indiana, you have to be 20 feet. I think in Denver, you have to be a certain feet. But make sure you know your feet so they won't come and try to arrest you. You know, and make
issues with the videos. I mean, Eric Garner's situation was recorded, and the cops got off. So I mean, how can you assure? I mean, without bringing and we have to be very honest, without interrogating ourselves or bringing ourselves into the case or the situation. I mean, the young brother.
And you know what? The videos.
He was targeted for recording that video. So how can we keep our young people safe and tell them and assure them that recording this incident will help the situation, and you know what I'm saying, without making them a target themselves or without feeling like they are actually contributing to solving
it will
problem.
talk. It will help. But I say in one of my speeches, I always talk about Malcolm X, and I added Malcolm X, and I tell people you've been had, hoodwinked, bamboozled, because that's what they're doing. When they tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that they're getting rid of the chokehold, and y'all think it's something, it ain't nothing, because guess what? In most divisions, most departments, the chokehold has been banned for over 20 years.
Right.
And they tell it they like they're giving us something, and they're not giving us anything. We got to take it. We got to hit these streets with these young, powerful, beautiful black kids and brown kids and white kids and whoever is down for the cause, and we have to take it by any means necessary, because they're talking like we ain't nothing. Like,
Right. We can't hear you.
You're muted, Carl.
You muted, bro. We can't hear you. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. I don't know what happened.
All right, while we're getting Crux fixed and maybe go back out and come back in. Okay. Sister Aaliyah, are you on? Aaliyah?
No, but I wanted to make a point to Crux when he comes back before we go to Aaliyah, because I know Aaliyah is a strong activist too. She's a true young activist. But just to what he was saying, I know a lot of people were saying that the new policy that a new police and executive order that Cuomo put into action and some laws that were voted on were nothing, and that we shouldn't be happy about that, and we shouldn't be accepting those things. But at the end of the day, I must say, we saw Eric Garner get killed with a chokehold, right?
Right.
That was said to be illegal, right? And Daniel Pantaleo, was he arrested? Was he arrested? I'm waiting. That wasn't a rhetorical question.
No.
So what I'm saying is basically he was killed by a chokehold. That was deemed illegal, but he's not in jail right now. So obviously there's some reform that has to be done around that. Even if it's not right, you're absolutely right. They treat us like animals. They treat us less than. But at the end of the day, we still need the laws to support what we're fighting for in the street. At the end of the day, nothing that we're talking about, we shouldn't, if we saw the video of George Floyd, that everybody I know that's in their right mind can look at that literally and see that that was wrong. But it's not about right and wrong in America, it seems, when we're talking about crime. It's about what you can prove. So right. At the end of the day, we have to have laws behind us, and we have to be pushing for laws to sustain us and basically make sure that we are protected. It's unfortunate. It's absolutely wrong. It's ridiculous. But at the end of the day, we live in America, and they claim this is the land of the free, but it's also the land where unarmed black man can get his a knee of another man in his neck for over 8 minutes, and nobody seems to jump in or stop that. That is the land that we live in. So let's not talk about this place like it is a utopia or a place that we can honestly say that Black lives do matter, because obviously we have to declare that every single day. We have to get in the streets and protest every single day in the year of 2020. It is 2020. That is absolutely ridiculous. And now it is on our young people to jump in the fight and add their energy. But it's also, we're still fighting for things that should be legal. There's a bill right now, the lynching bill. It's still on the table. Lynching is still on the table. It's still not passed in 2020. And then they're talking about, people were saying, oh, why is that even relevant? There's 2 young black men that we just seen in the news that were discovered recently hung by the neck. And there's still a lynching bill that's not even passed. That's a problem. So that's why we're talking about, I understand what you were saying, brother, but at the end of the day, it does matter. That the police reform that's being pushed across and more matters. It might be a tap on the hand or a tap on the wrist, but more needs to be done. And we can't diminish the small victories from the larger victories. We need all the victories we can get, because at the end of the day, we're dying and no one is paying for it. So that's what we're talking about today. One of the issues we're talking about, not issues, what tactics we're talking about, is demonstration of legislation. Demonstration of legislation, we have a legislative and policy conference. Malaysia just spoke. I think you've been there, for 4 years, Malaysia, or 3, at the legislative and policy conference in DC?
Yeah, it was 3 years.
3 years now. And at the end of the day, that's something that NAN does every year. We didn't have a chance to do it this year yet because of COVID, and it's supposed to be coming up. But at the end of the day, that is something extremely important about having, I'm mutual Malaysia. Having policy, pushing policy as we march. As we're out in the street demanding change, you have to understand that we're not just out there screaming and hollering or just being passionate. And no, it's not nothing wrong with those who are just out there doing that. But for those who have been in this fight for a long time, that does not make sense. You have to be in the streets fighting for something. You have to be in the streets pushing for policy. You have to have demands. If you have no demand, what's the point of being in the streets demanding something or speaking truth to power? When you go to power, you have to make a demand. You can't just say, oh, we want this is wrong, this is right. We need officers arrested and charged. We need officers fired. If there's something specific, we have to go with our demands. So that's one thing about protesting that I wanted to bring up, and I was impressed because I know Malaysia mentioned it also that she was at a march recently this weekend. So I wanted to say this before Aaliyah. I think Aaliyah is back with us. I saw you had some issues getting in and out of the chat. But I know you guys had a list of demands, and you said that Aaliyah was one of the organizers. So I wanted to speak to her about why she chose to organize in the way that she did this past weekend and prior to that. Is Aaliyah with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect.
Okay,
welcome to the virtual huddle, Aaliyah.
Hi, Aaliyah. Welcome tonight. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Malaysia, for welcoming Miss Aaliyah to the chat. That's what it's all about. Our president, Malaysia. Thank you for your leadership and welcoming your activist friend and sister to the virtual huddle.
Thank you.
Go ahead, John. Take it away.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, Aaliyah. So we were just talking with Brother Crux and Sister Malaysia, and wanted to bring you in on this, but we were talking about where we left with Crux was talking about really trying to leverage and improve relationships between law enforcement or authorities in the community and young people. And I know that you work extensively on, criminal justice reform. You've been working with Raise the Age. You've been working on juvenile justice reform. So if you could just talk a little bit about that part of your activism, and then of course on your organizing efforts. We know that you've been a part of organizing demonstrations, around injustice. So if you can just talk a little bit about both of those facets of what you do in your activism, that would be great. And Aaliyah is, by the way, is 17 years old, right? You're 17?
Yeah, I'm 17.
Yeah, she's been very vocal from a young age in the issues that affect us, and we definitely appreciate your activism and want to welcome you to the platform tonight to speak. So go right ahead and let us know what's going on.
Thank you. So I feel like in our communities, we have police, but police don't really understand how to interact with the youth. And that's the biggest problem. Like, youth can see when somebody's not being real with them and they just out there faking. And that's when they get uncomfortable, and that's where they don't respect you. They don't respect someone that they feel don't have the best intention for them. And a lot of police that's in our neighborhood, they don't have the best intention for us. They come, they never been in Harlem before. They just come and they think that they could tell everybody what to do and everybody's going to go and listen, and they don't have the greatest intentions for them. And that's what causes the animosity between cops and our young people. I feel like if they take time out to really help, and they see a troubled kid on the corner, don't first instinct pull out your gun or tell them get on the wall or tell them put their hands up. Go try to talk to them, see how they've been doing, see how you could help them. A conversation could help a young person that's going through some stuff. Just one simple conversation, how you doing, something like that. Also, there's a lot of community centers that aren't being invested in our communities. There's empty community centers with no programs, no anything, and that's part of defunding the police, putting some of that money into the community centers to create more program and resources for young people. That would also create a better bond between law enforcement and young people. And also to speak about Raise the Age and all the work I've been doing around Raise the Age.
I think your video is freezing out. We can't hear you or see you, sis.
Solid hours.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
All right. So like I was saying, solitary confinement, there's in detention centers, there's young people that can be held in solitary confinement for up to 18 hours a day, and that's inhumane. Holding somebody, especially a young person, holding them up in a room by themselves, no air, no other people to interact with. That can mess up their thinking. That can mess up how they interact with people when they get out, and that's something that needs to end. That's what I've been fighting for. Also, raising the age from 7 to 12. There's people that can be arrested at 7 years old. They can be held in police custody. They can be put in a police car. If you guys didn't see, there was a girl, she was about 7 or 8 years old. They picked her up for school because she was angry and she had a temper tantrum. So they called the police, and the police put her in handcuffs and escorted her out to school and didn't inform the parents until she was in police custody. And that's a problem, because 7, 8 years old, you don't need to be put in handcuffs, and you don't need to be escorted out of school by police just for having a temper tantrum. You don't know what's going on in her head, and that's one of the biggest problems. And that's another thing why young people really don't respect police, because the first thing you think when a little girl has a temper tantrum is to escort her out of the school in handcuffs in front of everybody, put her in a police car. There's something wrong. Like, that doesn't even make sense. So those are some of the things I've been fighting for. I organized a rally with the help of Malaysia on Saturday, because I feel like young people need to be heard and youth-based solutions need to be brought to the table. We have like a lot of older people that their ideas, they're great, but they're getting outdated. They need like a little young person's like spice to it. It needs to be like our generation. Like, we need to hear from our generation. We respect the older people and respect what they've been doing, but our voices need to be heard too. And we also need a seat at the table for our voices and our ideas to be helpful and benefit the movement that's going on.
Exactly right. But I want to ask you a question. So I was in an article this recently in Forbes about basically how Generation Z is coming and taking the heart of the movement back, and we need their energy. And it was similar to what you just said. And I honestly push back on them, because I feel like we need elders, we need middle age, we need millennials, we need Gen Z, and every A to Z, whoever. Because at the end of the day, the victory is not going to be easy, and the victory is not won. But I do challenge you, because when we go out, I want our young people to be excellent. I want us to be at our best. So when you say that some ideas are outdated, and you guys have new ones, like what? What's one of your new solutions that that the young people are bringing to the forefront? And I'm being honest. I want us to know, because we have a mix. We have an intergenerational platform. So I want all of our listeners to understand what you're talking about.
I know a lot of the issues have been like getting to roots of problems. This Saturday, there was a young man from Queens who spoke about defunding the police, and he spoke about how we need to be listened to. I feel like the problem starts with young people. They don't feel heard. Like, they feel like they're talking, but they aren't being heard. Like, they're trying to voice their opinion, but their opinion isn't brought into the conversation, into the discussion. And that's what I mean by young people adding their ideas. I feel like they have a lot of great ideas and they have a lot of good input, but they just don't feel supported enough and they don't feel heard enough. And I feel young other ideas put together can be great. Like I'm trying to think of something. I know older people, they have the demands like defunding the police. They've been working on that like for a long time. Like this isn't any new. People been trying to push that demand. But when you speak it to the young people, what do you want us to invest in? Like, what do you want us to put this money towards? If we're gonna defund the police and put the money into the communities, but what do y'all want? Like, what programs do y'all want to have in y'all communities? Do y'all want basketball? Do y'all want game night? Do y'all want movie night? Like, what do y'all want? That's what I'm.
Right. Perfect. And you're right on the right page. And I'm gonna hold you and Miss Malaysia. And I'm gonna hold you both accountable, because you are two young leaders of today. You're not of tomorrow, because I heard you say that earlier. We're leaders of tomorrow, Malaysia. Y'all are leading now. You just did an action on Saturday. That's taking leadership in this day. And we are very proud of you, and you have our support. But I'm gonna hold you accountable to making sure that you continue to lead your generation and create solutions for us all to follow and support, because it's on you guys. You're absolutely right. Defund the police. The concept of defund the police was not new, but the slogan, that was new. And that made a whole bunch of people that wasn't paying attention to the issue pay attention to it. And I think that's why we need to work together, old and young, to make sure that all of our issues are on the table, just like with George Floyd. And that's one of the questions. I see Derek, and I also see that Attorney Royce Russell joined us. He is brilliant, in my opinion. But I wanted to bring to the table, in the midst of George Floyd, why do you think we've seen so much? Some people are calling it the second coming of Black Lives Matter. And I didn't know we were out of the first coming, honestly. So maybe I'm confused. But I wanted to know what our young people and our elders felt about that. I wanted to know what Attorney Royce Russell and Derek Perkinson, our NYC director, feels about that. I also saw Stephen Marshall, our liaison. I wanted to know how you are, because you are not new to this fight. Y'all are not new at all to this fight. You've seen police brutality. You've seen how those cases have ended. You've seen the best and the worst. And I don't want our young people to lose their passion and their energy and their anger if this fight doesn't end up how they want it to. Because I've been there with Trayvon. I was heartbroken about how that has ended, or how that has still not come to pass. Eric Garner, I'm still heartbroken. I know so many names in the movement that we're all heartbroken, but at the end of the day, we have to keep going. And I want the names that I just called, Royce Russell, Attorney Royce Russell, Derek Perkinson, to speak about what's going on. What are we seeing right now? This uprising, this revolution, and what to expect from it. Also, the demands. We need demands. Besides defunding the police, we're forgetting about the vote, we're forgetting about the census, and we're also forgetting about important policy that is on the table. We already missed all of the judges that were put in under our noses while we were watching Trump dance. So the Supreme Court is stacked against us. So there's real issues that are happening, that's happening right under our nose, and we need to pay attention to it. An election is coming. An election is coming, and we are distracted. We need to make sure that we vote this person out. And I'm going to say that's me, Ashley Sharpton, saying that. But at the end of the day, we need to focus, because we're all around, we're all moving in different directions, and we all need to come together, center, focus, and have the same agenda. Royce Russell, Derek Perkinson.
Well said, Ashley. Go ahead, Royce. I defer to you, my brother. How you doing?
Thank you. So what I would say,
your orange for peace. I see you.
So what I would say is that we have to look at this from a standpoint that there is no end. See, oftentimes when we see tragedies in our community, we believe that there's an end. There's a beginning, there's an end. There's a protest, there's reform, then there's, peace, then to the next event, then it's protest, then there's reform, then there's peace. So if we look at it as one long continuum, that this event has galvanized us to put feet in the street, put pen to paper, put mind to matter, play chess and not checkers, that we know that this is the way we have to live every single day. It's like the long-lasting diet, the long-lasting spiritual uplifting that we run every day. We pray every day. We recognize our brothers and sisters every day. So this is what we have to do every day. And to the young folks out there, and I consider myself young, so to the young folks out there, what I would say is that we constantly have to look at, where is the void? VOID, where is the void? You take that and then you spread that across our whole community, the void in economics that we need to fill, the void in business, that's something that's not out there that we need to fill, the void in the community as far as voices being heard that we need to fill. Where is the void? There is a void there. There's a disconnect between law enforcement and young folks. There's a void there for something to happen. Is it Huddle? Is it Huddle 2.0? Is it some other organization that says, you know what? We're going to confront the 47th precinct, or we're going to confront the 52nd precinct, and we're going to fill the void. We're going to be the nexus. But we also have to understand that we can't rely totally on them. That is about self-reliance, and self-reliance is the only true way to have complete reliance. And so with that in mind, and saying like, oh yeah, the old stuff don't work, the new stuff, no, it's not old or new. It's what's the void. Fill the void, whatever it may be, fill it. And then we can have a conversation.
Fill the void. I like that. I like that, Royce Russell.
Thank you.
Mr. Perkinson?
Yeah, well said, Rush. Well said. Hey, Dominic. Hey, Ash. Good to see everybody here. It's always good to be on Huddle. I love talking about this. Rev made a comment this past Saturday at the rally. He said it's going on 3 weeks that we've been marching, protesting. And he said with Rosa Parks, they did 354 days. Put that in perspective, my people, please. We did 3 weeks, and we're still going. Hopefully, we'll keep pushing. But back then, they did 354 days. That's over a year. And when Roy speak about never stop fighting, no, it's never gonna end. There's always gonna be new fights that we and again, Rev mentioned some fights we're not gonna win. But we're gonna fight. We have to fight, and we have to instill that into the children. So the children, you have to pick up. I love what you said, Ash. Give us your ideas. Give us your energy ideas. Come to us with your ideas, because you guys are young. You guys know the terrain. You know what other kids want. So give us some ideas. Give us some things to run on, so we could come together. Because separation. They try to separate the generations. The young from the old, and slave mentality. Rev talks about it all the time. So we have to come together with the youth. We're not separated. I refuse to let people separate. When people start saying negative things, I say now is not the time to be divisive. We can fight in the backyard after, but we have a time right now. Push for equality, and that's all we're asking for. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for equality. And that's somebody's phone making all that noise. But it's very important, man, because we're gonna have to keep fighting. So we have to keep our kids prepared to know the history. That's why I'm excited about this coming Friday, Juneteenth. Again, Dominique said, she grew up knowing about Juneteenth. I just heard about Juneteenth about 2-3 years ago. Growing up, they never taught us about June. This is ridiculous, because this is the real Independence Day for African Americans, Black people born in America. Right. I know a lot of people have they want to talk about a whole bunch of different stuff, but at the end of the day, if you born in America, you a descendant from slave here that was brought, kidnapped from Africa and brought here. You're descended from that. We have to celebrate Juneteenth. And a lot of the history is not getting to our children. They're getting distracted with social media and the speed of life, I like to call it, the speed of life, being in the streets and watching other people do things, and they get caught up. So we have to stay diligent. History, so we got to know the history so we don't repeat it.
But while your mic is hot, Derek, and you were talking about Juneteenth, can you just give the info for Friday, since we are having a celebration?
Yes, I'm glad to. Juneteenth, we're gonna have I call it an oral history celebration. Nan and Friends presents a Juneteenth oral history and celebration. We're gonna go to the history of Juneteenth song. We're gonna have music, encouragement, enlightenment, uplifting. I'm trying to get some fireworks. So if anybody knows anybody with fireworks, if not, we're gonna do the digital fireworks, because this is gonna be our Independence Day moving forward. The children, my children, grandchildren will know what Juneteenth is, and they're gonna share it. I will make sure they share it to generations so it don't die out. And hopefully next year we could do it bigger when we're not all social distancing and stuff like that.
What time Friday?
2 p.m. on a Zoom. We're gonna have the flyers made up soon. Everybody gonna have the Zoom link. Please tap in. It's gonna be short and sweet, 30 to 45 minutes. Not gonna keep you all day for next Friday. Okay, guys?
Yes. Thank you, DB. I'm gonna come back to you because I have another question for you. But I wanted Liaison Stephen Marshall, and he's also a minister. He also works in the hospitals. We're reopening with COVID, but we're also still in the fight. The fight has not decreased at all, and one would think so, but it has not. You also talk about gun violence every Saturday. In Chicago alone, on the weekend, I think the rate was higher than what it usually is. And I just don't understand, because I don't think there's any gun manufacturers in Chicago. So how are they getting so many guns in the hood to kill each other? So it's just, and there's also a lot of Black leaders there. Like, let's tell the truth and shame the devil. So there's a lot going on in our Black America, amongst the whole what's happening in the world. And I wanted to hear how you feel about this, how you feel where we're going, solution. Also speak to about, I saw you writing in the chat about what Crux said about how the police reform that was just passed is good. It was major. And also, after you, I wanted to hear from DJ Put On. DJ Put On is in Jersey, and he's a little more radical than our standard NAN activist, but he's a young activist and advocate, and I wanted to hear his opinion. He's angry, but he's on the front line, and he wants change. So we need to hear from those who have a different way of going about things, but also want to come to the table to work together to go towards it. Also, this was a major time. It's Pride Month. Sorry, I know I'm saying a lot. I'm just trying to get update about Pride. Hold on one second. And then it's also Pride Month. So It's also Gun Violence Awareness Month. Chaplain Cole, I see you in the comments. So we need to hear from you about what happened today. And peace to Queen Mother, one of the founding members of National Action Network. Mother Kennedy is on. Mother McGuire Kennedy, who was a original from Stonewall. So at the end of the day, we have legends on with us, and it's a lot to discuss, but demonstration of legislation, it was a major day for the LGBTQ, and it would not have happened without demonstration of legislation. So I wanted you to speak to that, Cole, if you don't mind speaking to that. But first, I want to start with you, Minister Stephen Marshall. Break it down for us.
So again, thank you. I think you guys unpacked a lot. I think actually what you said about the legislation that was passed in New York State was major. I don't want nobody on this call or watching to be discouraged. You said it perfectly. There's policies in police departments all over the nation, but those policies are managed and maintained by the police, the very ones who inflict pain on our people. So the difference between the policy locally in police municipalities and the law now means that they have oversight, that when they don't follow their own policies, there is now a law to back that up. So that's major. Will it stop people from doing what they do to us? No, but there is a measure of accountability in which we all need to be protected by. I want to again, and Derek talked about history. I think every activist, everybody that's taken the vow to really fight, if you're true to this, you must study history. If you do not study history, you are not fit to be on the street saying no justice, no peace, or anything else. Simply because if you study history, there are no losses in the movement.
Say that.
So the movement for us is a lifestyle. It is not a moment, it's a lifestyle, right? So my daughter is not even 2 months old. I named her Justice because this is our life. And so there's no losses in the movement, right? I go back to the days as a youngster of Anthony Baez and Amadou Diallo when I first started in the movement. But there were no losses. The only time you lose is when you stop. And so the children, the kids behind us, and I spoke at a march, a youth march last Thursday, and I told everybody that was listening, I think it's insensitive and I think it's incorrect that we continue to say that the children are our future. The children are now, right? And so the leaders are now, simply because there's no, we can't. I just got a phone call in Suffolk County, New York, that a 15-year-old was shot. So how can we wait for them to be the future when they need to be on the streets now, really like invoking change amongst one another? You talked about violence. Chicago had 101 shootings in 72 hours. Right in Brooklyn this weekend, Brooklyn, New York, we had 6 shootings in 4 minutes. And so to your point, and again, go based on history, and Reverend Sharpton always talks about states' rights. You are absolutely correct. There's no gun manufacturers in Chicago. But guess what? There's a gun manufacturer within 90 minutes away.
Jesus.
There's no gun manufacturers in New York State. But if you go to Pennsylvania, 90 minutes away, you can purchase an AR-15 and a gallon of milk in the same setting. 90 minutes away from New York City, you can go to Pennsylvania to a private gun show, or a person can sell you a gun out of their trunk in a parking lot of a Walmart, and it's totally legal without any real change for gun reform or anything like that. And so those of us that are gun rights activists or social activists or civic activists, we got to make sure that the legislation changes. There's been I said before, like, this is disproportionate. We talked about COVID, Blacks are number one. Unemployment, Blacks are number one. Disproportionate healthcare, Blacks are number one. We live in New York City. Those of us that live in New York City, we have the most segregated school system in the country. That's number one. And so when we talk about disproportionality, we're number one on all the lists. Every one. And so although there's no gun manufacturers in East Harlem or Central Brooklyn or the Bronx, we have access to guns, and I believe it was done that way so we can actually kill each other off.
But
right?
Steven, so where does Aaliyah or Malaysia start? You said we're number one all across the board. Where do they start? Or how do they start on the issue to try to fix something for the future, for justice, for baby justice?
Right. So I think what happens in these moments in the movement is that we try to tackle everything, right? And so I think all of us have to take responsibility for that in which we are going to commit to. We're all busy. We all have itineraries, whether you are organized or not. You have something going on. You have older parents. You have everything, school, graduation, pressures of peer pressure, all of that stuff. You need to stick to something that really, really you can commit to and do everything that you can do in your power to make it happen. There's no reason why when we say you can go to gunviolencearchive.org, it will show you that we have over 15,000 people that have been killed in this country under the age of 17. Why hasn't there been a 16-year-old, 15-year-old that has written a bill simple about gun legislation to the person in their district, right? And so the representatives that represented us, that that our parents vote for, or those of us that are of age vote for, need to be doing something about it. There's no reason why we don't have federal legislation to oversee basic background checks on guns, period, right? We know it's the Second Amendment right and all of that, blah, 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 cool. But again, the Second Amendment right is not being adhered to when it comes to the right for us to first live and have life to the fullest. So I would encourage you, find something that you really, really know you're gonna commit to, and don't be discouraged if you don't see how victory looks from your optics, right? You can't look at things on sea level. You got to look ahead, be a seer, not just in the present, but just know that if you keep fighting for it, if you keep pushing, I guarantee you it'll happen. You can't lose if you're in the fight. You can't. I can't express that enough. There's no eloquence. There's no real significant dissertation to say, oh, this is the steps. You got to be in it, committed. If you're not committed, then you're really a spectator in this real serious moment in our country. So again, we don't lose unless we stop fighting. We don't lose unless we stop fighting. We got to stick to it, stay in it, stay with it, get committed, and everything else that's around you, support it, but stay the course. Work on your project, and whatever your project is, just keep at it. Keep at it. Remember, when you first learned how to ride a bike, you fell 100 times, but you were committed because you wanted to ride your bike with your friends. That's right. So I don't mean to make it in the simplest form, but that's a great analogy to say that you got to get back up, right? You go to court, you're fighting for a case, and the cops get off. All right, cool, but they know we were there, right? Reverend Sharpton always says that you might beat me, but they're gonna have to wake you up in a locker room and let you know you was in a fight. So just keep fighting.
You said that, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so thank you, Minister Marshall, and always speaking truth to power, for sure. We can count on you to do that. Thank you again for your powerful words and your leadership. I do want to bring on DJ Put On, who's with us tonight. Ashley introduced him earlier, but he is with us tonight, and I do want him to come on and talk a little bit about from the perspective that he stands. Having to be, you kind of have to be conscious in your work, right? Yeah. But then at the end of the day, it's like you also have, you don't want to quote unquote piss off the wrong people, you know what I'm saying? But then again, you still got to be conscious and you got to be true to your people because that's a part of your brand. Right. So how do you differentiate from the two where you can say, look, I'm gonna step over here and do this conscious effort. At the same time, I know I have to be in rooms and I have to be in circles where my blackness may be too much or my consciousness may be too much. You know what I'm saying? How can you speak to that perspective, brother?
No, I can definitely speak to that perspective. But for me, it's for me on that perspective to be direct, and Ash said it, I'm a little more direct, a little bit more militant, but I'm dark skinned, right? So I command respect like without having to kind of like I've never really had to hide my blackness ever. And then on top of it, my parents are African. So being that I'm dark skinned, I never had a chance to really like try to fit in that kind of way. So I always had to manipulate with my words or whatever to fit into the room or to stand out regardless. So now with the challenges that we have going on, I took on a part-time job. I work in a white suburban environment that with thousands of customers that come in every day, and I have to stand there and have these. I've had to have conversations with white people about this. I've had to step into conversations about people saying, "Oh, this looting is just crazy," and then I'll wait for them to finish the conversation. It might be a customer and my coworker, and I wait for them to finish the conversation, and they would not say anything about the murders. So I would step in and say, hey guys, excuse me. When you guys have this conversation about the looting, I go out, I peacefully protest. We had a protest in Trenton the other day, ha ha ha. I'm able to let them know that, hey, you guys should also continue the conversation by saying that the looting might end, these things might end if we get the right convictions, if we start to treat these people with the same use of the system, you know what I mean, with the same judicial treatments across the board, regardless of skin color. So showing like your support for Black lives right now, like for me, it hasn't really been hard in entertainment and not, you know, at all, you know. It's already been a part of my thing. So, you know, it's not hard really, honestly, for me. And one of the major things and one of the major positions that we seem to see over and over is that people who stand on the side of Black Lives Matter have nothing to fear. And that's something that I continuously say. And honestly, that's where a lot of the pandering did come from, because a lot of people are like, oh, you know, let me pander to the Black people so they don't mess ruin my business. But the people that are not even doing the slightest bit, we understand we have a problem, and you can't look at that, you know, any other way. So that's where you then look at, if you're in a business setting and you see that you're going into a business setting where, look, they are not saying anything about Black Lives Matters, they are not supporting Black Lives Matter whatsoever, you have to make a decision before you walk into that door whether you're going to do business with them or not. So that also makes it easy for me, because I already know I'm not doing that business. You know, I have a bunch of notes here. If I could just run through them real quick, right? You know, I wanted to just start with you to tell you guys, you know, this is big for me because we live in a white world. I want to start with that. We live in a white world, and that, if we just start with that every day, you wake up with that every day, not to punish yourself, but to just remember and understand that the struggles that we go through as Black people, the struggling with our Black lives, it's because we walk outside into a world where, unfortunately, for centuries, we have put white people as numero uno, first, primo. We can't dispel that in 3 weeks. And my brother just said this. I did not know that we marched for 364 days. I did not know that. They never told me that in history. And I know a decent little amount. I never knew that. So they never allowed us to even categorize what a protest is.
Right.
So regardless, you know, everyone has to do the work. You know, everyone has to do the work. I heard, you know, we hear some comments about legislation, about, oh, they didn't give us nothing with the chokehold. But everyone is in a position to be able to do their work. How did I defend looters, and how did I tell people that, hey, I can't tell looters nothing, because that's their position and that's the work that they feel that they can do. So that, you know, everyone has to do their work, and everyone has to educate each other. You know, the legislation is good across the board. If it's chokehold, if it's whatever, any legislation is good legislation. We got to keep pushing it, period. Little by little by little by little, the whole puzzle will start to actually even out, where all lives actually matter. If you get all these legislations, and then now people can fight their cases with these legislations, it all matters. So yes, chokehold legislation is important. Also, because the people who fought for that, who might have not known the information that you just said, they get a victory too. We need more victories as well. You know what I mean? So what do we have here? So all of it, the conversations, all of it is important and necessary. So we can't downplay any of it. You know what I mean? The most important thing that we have to do, though, is also work on ourselves. Everybody has a hurdle to overcome in these recent days. Everyone has hurdles to overcome, and we can't overlook the fact that our neighbors have hurdles as well to overcome. Some people are struggling financially silently right now. You know what I mean? Some people are struggling emotionally. Everybody is struggling in some kind of way right now. So we can't put that aside when people are having these discussions and we're talking about what we need to do, or what we can do today, or what we can't do tomorrow. We're fussing and fighting. No, everybody just needs to work on themselves. That's number one. And their perception of themselves and others. That's number one. If we can't even start having all these debates and talking, if you didn't look in the mirror today and say, I'm going to treat myself and everyone else the same. Me, the same way I treat myself, I'm going to treat you and everyone else I come into contact with today. You can't even go out there and have no debate or talk about anybody's legislation or anybody's march or have a Juneteenth celebration. I like that. That's true. But what my brother said, you shouldn't be out there in the street if you're not educated, but everyone plays a part. Even if you're not educated, it's good to see them feet on the street, period. That's what the movement is about. So I just want to skip, I want to skip through and just talk about, people, we talked about people downplaying, there's so many changes and so many awakenings that happening. I do not want to be a person that speaks positively about the guy that says that he's the president of this country. I don't want to. But even he is experiencing hurdles that he's getting over. He's a 74, 75-year-old white man from New York City, born and raised in America, born and raised in white supremacy. He knows what that is, and he has felt that all of his life. So there are hurdles he has to go over. So for us to backlash him and say, oh, he's only moving his thing to June 20th because of this and because of that, maybe he had a realization, maybe. But let us just go out there and celebrate with the fact that we don't have any disturbance from what he would have had going on the same day. You know, if we decide to go to DC, you know, but there's just so many different things where we are fighting ourselves, and it's just so sad because we can't get ahead that way. I watched something today where that a man talked about the greatness of Black people, how great we are, just from physically to every single piece of Black people that's so great, but we can't come together to show that. You know, I'm African, my parents are Nigerian. I'm working very hard right now to go to Nigeria for 2 weeks whenever these borders open up, just to set some things up. I have not talked to my dad in about 3 or 4 years, but because of this situation, I called my father and I said, listen, I'm on a mission. We have a house that's pretty much abandoned in Nigeria. I want to start going over there, setting up business, strengthening Africa. Because if we strengthen Africa, and this is my biggest piece, and I can even end on this if y'all don't want to hear me no more, but my biggest piece is if we work on ourselves as Black people, if we strengthen Africa, then we have another ally to go to say, yo, don't do that to Black people. There's a diaspora out there. And the diaspora is the strongest thing. The diaspora is what that man was talking about the greatness of Black people. The diaspora is what I pander to. That's what I talk about. Because the diaspora is Black people in China, is Black people in the Philippines, is Black people in England. You've seen these people in the UK, right? Going hard.
Yes.
They feeling us.
Yes.
They're going hard. But I've always preached for them Black people over there in the UK. I've always said that they just like us. We need to, why have we never had a connection with them?
Why do you think everyone tries so hard to keep us divided? Because they know our power together.
And that is the part. And we still play into it. Right. That every day we have to wake up and remember, we're not going to play the people dividing us with nothing. Not with the Confederate flag, not with a Trump sticker, not with nobody's going to divide us based on no food stamps, nothing. I don't care if we only got 3. We're just going to share that and move forward. And we have to move forward.
Amen.
Like, I don't care if you old or young, technology is the biggest piece. Let me jump to the technology piece, and then I'll let you guys. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Technology is the biggest piece. The technology is our connection. The technology is the way that we are going to connect all of these generations, and this is the reason I'm on this call, because there has to be one unifying piece. There has to be a Nike of the Black Lives Matters movement. There has to be information passage through one stream. There has to be unifying thought. Yes, everybody can diverge off and have opinions and have their own life experiences, but if we're working on ourselves individually, if you're a therapist and you know that Black people need therapy and you're giving out therapy services to Black people, you're working on yourself and you're working on your community, and that's it. Don't have no other debate or discussion with other people that are doing other things. Leave it alone. Let them do what they got to do, please. Because you don't know what they're doing on that side. You don't understand what they're doing, and let them do what they're doing. Let the people that's in entertainment that ain't saying nothing, let them do what they're doing, because they know how they're going to get that check, and they know how they're going to affect lives, or they know what battles and hurdles they have to go over. Michael Jordan is giving away money, and so many people are saying, oh my God, why he just giving away money? That man had hurdles to go over to understand. White was right. We have lived in white supremacy. So whatever Michael Jordan had thought about Black people, that he didn't want to give his money to Black people, that's okay. But now guess what? He's doing it. So let's go ahead and roll with that. Let's stop. Let's use this technology to join our times. Mr. Parkinson.
Amen, go right there.
Mr. Parkinson wants to get some things from me, right? I might have to send Mr. Parkinson an app that I use to get some things. Because we might not be able to have these conversations on our regular apps and our Facebooks and everything before they shut us down.
That's true.
We know history, don't let it repeat itself, so we have to use this technology to bring together divides that are across borders. There's a diaspora that has to come together in order for us to be strong. And within Strengthen Africa is our place where we can go ahead and They use the sea to part us. They use a price on a flight to keep us apart. Some people say, oh, the flight too much, $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
I know, do you know how many brothers I know with belts is $1,500?
Well,
that's just to go see Africa, to see it. I'm telling you, I got a house out there, 20 of us could stay for free. $1,500 for us to go out there and learn that there are schools and there are people that look just. I went to Africa when I was young, and that's what changed my perspective forever, because I'm from here. But I went to Africa when I was young, and there was no discrimination, because you can't discriminate against people that look just like you.
Well, come on now.
So that's why I advocate so much for Africa. But here we can advocate for our communities. We don't have no Jewish communities. We don't have none. Jewish people, you go to Brooklyn. I tell Ash all the time. I say, I'm so confused when I go to Brooklyn, because it be the hood, and then you see these Jewish communities with these people with the little things. I'm from Jersey, so it was strange to me always coming up over there. And I'm like, what is? They got their little community. They don't care what nobody else rule of law is. They got their own rule of law. So we talking about defund the police. Okay, fine. Let's try and do that. But let's get some of the funding to fund our own type of organizations that we call first on our own, using our own signal, using our own line. Call that first.
Right.
Call them first. That's the first people we should call before we call and say, oh, you know what? It's a drunk man outside. Call this number.
That was heavy. What you said it starts to change, because that's the first problem. If you go outside and the changes, and you're all complicated and messed up inside, and you out there trying to fight for someone else to change, but you just continue to stay the same and negative and not trying to build, then that's an issue. So that was heavy. Africa, that ally, that part, a lot of us missed that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can break it down just real quick. Take Nigeria for a specific example, and I'll put this. Okay, we can put this on the internet, because they don't think we gonna run with it, but maybe we will. So a country like Nigeria has a good relationship with America and China. America and China don't have the greatest of relationships with each other. So what can we do? We could play between if we wanted to, but we can't even unify. We can't even love ourselves enough to do that. We could take all kind of technology from China and have all kind of missiles and warcraft and all that stuff from America, and sit there on the biggest of everything and tell them, and then try to Black Lives us in America again. Try to Black Lives us in the UK again. Try to kick us out of these houses and apartments in China during COVID-19 again.
Right.
But
So,
we're not doing that. So we got to start from within, for sure. Go ahead, Ashley.
I know there's one thing that you didn't get to, and I want to briefly touch on it, but your economic push. I know before we talked about this several times about our economic power. And I saw Lorianne Lumsby in the comments, and she is our economic guru at Huddle. So I want you to get on, Lorianne, and speak to how we can, basically we talk about protesting. Protesting is not our only way to push back. Our economic power, our economic push, a boycott, a real economic boycott, I feel like can definitely advance us and help America take us seriously, because our power is in the dollar, and we don't really understand that. I also wanted to bring back Stephen Marshall, because he was in, he just texted me something that's too powerful to keep to ourselves. But before we get to Lorianne, and I'll come back to you, DJ Put On, but I wanted to go to Cole. Cole, we were talking about earlier, like we said, it's also Pride Month, and the Pride Parade was canceled because of COVID, of course, but that does not take away that we honor those who we love. They're my allies, of course. I love them to death, but those are our soldiers on the front line all the time. Yes. Chaplain Cole and Reverend Magora Kennedy. Reverend Magora Kennedy is a founding member of the National Action Network. You guys can introduce yourself, because I don't want to slight you, but y'all, they're two true warriors on the front line, and they've been there since I knew what the front line was. So we can start off with Chaplain Cole, and then you can introduce Reverend Magora Kennedy to share what great historic news happened today for the LGBTQ community. Welcome, Chaplain Cole, to Virtual Huddle.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to say that a historic day happened. The Supreme Court of the United States delivered a historic victory for LGBTQ people. And not only that, but it was a very unexpected decision. essentially the justice that Donald Trump installed in the Supreme Court was the one who actually voted, unbelievably voted for LGBTQ rights and even wrote the final decision. So we'll have more information about it. But as we just want to say, this is LGBTQ Pride Month. Right. And we have with us tonight, I'm so proud to introduce introduce for those that don't know her, Reverend Magora Kennedy. And I'll let you take it from there, Reverend Kennedy, to talk more about this month.
Lafayette family, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I
Thank
just
you,
wanted to say hi to my Huddle family and hi to Ashley, and especially Ashley, because Ashley and Dominique they're like my babies. But the thing is, this is Pride Month, and it all started in 1969 in Greenwich Village at the Stonewall Inn. Now, over the years, we're celebrating 51 years, and I hope you all can give me a minute here. When it all started out, it started because gay people got sick and tired of being sick and tired. They had gone uptown for Judy Garland's wake. They went to see her for the last time. It poured down rain. Everybody went back to the Stonewall Inn to lament and kind of grieve over Judy Garland. That was when the cops decided to pull one of their famous raids. Now, you talk about police brutality. Let me tell you something, honey. Back in those days, the cops would raid the gay bars and never got on the news, was never in the paper. They go in those gay bars, beat the daylights out of the gay people, throw them in the paddy wagon, they would go to jail. In those days, they wouldn't even call the women police women. They called them matrons. They brought them along because the guys would search the gay men that were dressed in drag, and if they didn't have on 2 pieces of male clothing, which was a t-shirt and boxer shorts, they were going to jail. The police matron was there for women who dressed in suits and ties, and if she didn't have on bras and panties, her ass got beat and she was going to jail. Well, this night in 1969, when the cops got into the Stonewall Inn and put up their sign, "This is a raided premises," a football player that had been coming from California on the weekends, dressed in drag, got out of the Stonewall Inn, picked up a parking meter, put it across the door so the cops inside could not get out. And of course, in those days, they didn't have technology like they are, so all they had was like they walkie-talkies. And by the time they tried to call for backup, the word had gone around the village and people were in the streets. Now, this cop slapped Stormy DeLarveray. And when the cop hit Stormy, she didn't punch him, she didn't fight him, otherwise it'd have been a Rodney King situation. All she did was slap the man across the face, and that was it. And the people heard about it, and by that time, the bars had emptied out, the streets were full, and they were taking on the cops, okay? And the thing was that everybody got to the point they were sick and tired of being sick and tired. They weren't going to take it anymore. And that was the beginning of the Stonewall uprising. No, it was not a riot. I just got through arguing with somebody over the phone today. It wasn't a riot because nobody was turning over cars, nobody was breaking in shops, nobody was looting. All they was doing was back and forth with the police. It started on a Friday and it ended that Monday.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you so much, Reverend Kennedy. You are truly a legend, and we are lucky to have your knowledge to be able to learn how to build on the movements that we have going on today. So thank you very much. Thank you.
As Ashley said, I am one of the founding members of National Action Network, and Dominique and Ashley were my babies. And when we were going on different marches and whatnot, one time I carried Ashley across my hip. So I was the first openly gay person in National Action Network, you know. So here I am at 81 years old, celebrating Pride, celebrating my family, loving National Action Network. I've been on telling everybody they better get on the bus August 28th.
Amen. 81 years young. Thank you very much for being
old,
here.
Honey, old.
So much to learn.
Old.
God bless you.
Young.
Chaplain Cole, if you have something else to add to this discussion as we are, you know, talking about demonstrating and raising our voice in injustice and, you know, supporting each other and standing hand in hand in this fight. I mean, we need everyone. Like it's not just a one person fight, or it's not just a one situation. Like, we need, these issues ring, you know, close to all of us. So how can we stay engaged? And even though, if, you know, we may have, you know, different viewpoints, different beliefs, but how we all come together to fight for what is right and to fight for what is just for one another, to have better opportunities in life. Can you just speak to that in this moment now? And after hearing from, you know, Reverend Mother Kennedy and so on, how can we stay engaged?
Thank you very much. See, you kind of twisted me around because it says Ashley, but I know you're Dominique. So
I'm Dominique, but
I know. But I'm glad that you asked, and thank you so much for giving us time and an opportunity to really point out that what you're seeing in this movement, in addition to all of the diversity that we've talked about seeing in these protest movements that we see around the country, what you're really seeing is, you know, something that we've never seen before, and that is a movement that is being led by LGBTQ POC individuals. So lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or queer individuals. And those things we've seen before, only loosely. Now we're able, for the first time, these movements are being led, and we can see it. Before, those stories were covered up, I think is what Reverend Kennedy was saying. So I don't think I'm saying it very well, but we're able to see so many of the people, for instance, for Black Lives Matter, those are LGBTQ people who are helping lead a movement. And yeah, there's a lot more that can be said about it. But now, during Pride Month, the month of June, for the Supreme Court, which just came out with marriage equality 5 years ago this month. So for them to come out with a ruling today that says that you are not able to discriminate against LGBTQ people in the workplace. It was just a huge and wonderful day. Reverend Kennedy, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Would you have something else, Mother Kennedy, add? I'm sorry.
Along with that, remember that from 1969 until now, 51 years, for me, it is not, you know, this is all of our struggle. Gay people, straight people, white people, Black people, green people, whoever. This is our struggle, and it's our time now. We must come together united, and we must defeat. Now, they're talking about defund the police. No, defund the police unions that have the money to get those cops off that have been killing our Black men and our Black people. That's who needs to be defunded. They're the ones, because that money in there, I thought it was $1 million. Come to find out, the police unions across the country control almost $1 billion. And most of the times, as we've seen over the years, the cops that have killed our Black people have gotten off. That stops as of today. That's why I tell everybody, get on the bus, be there August 28th. This is the second March on Washington. Remember, the first March on Washington was laid out by Bayard Rustin, but because he was a gay man, he was kept in the background. Same thing going across the Pettus Bridge. A lot of us that were out there was kept away from everybody else because we were gay. I mean, you can hear my voice, but you can't see me because, you know, keep her away from the women. That's what they said. You know, Bayard Rustin, keep him away from the men. But if it was not for people like Bayard Rustin, there would not been no first March on Washington. He laid it out.
Amen. True story. True story. Thank you very much.
I do want to bring on, and I want you all to stay as well. I do want to incorporate Tyleek McMillan into the conversation. Many of us heard from Tyleek. You know, periodically he comes on Huddle, but he is one of our dynamic youth leaders, a part of National Action Network, and he is He works out of our Washington, D.C. bureau. So I do want to bring him on. We're talking about legislation now, Tyleek. We're talking about the fight for justice in many different arenas. You all sent just, today the information about the Supreme Court's decision today, and we just talked about that with Chaplain Cole and Mother Kennedy. But we know that you're on the ground, Tyleek, and you are working hands in hand from demonstration and legislation. Give us an update from the ground. What's going on in D.C.? How do you feel about the laws that were passed today, and what do we need to do to stay engaged? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure being on. As you said, DC is always crazy DC as it is, but I think it's always a step in the direction to have the foundation. But I don't want folks to get complacent. For complacency is the enemy of accomplishment. So we don't want to become complacent of what we see before our eyes. So it's start, but we still have a ways to go, and that's why it's important for folks to continue to keep the pressure, and for folks to continue to be on the front lines, even when the sexy activism is over, even when the popularity of it is over, even when the hashtags fade and the news headlines fade away. It's important for folks to keep the pressure. So I live in DC, and as you heard before, with folk was said before me, before Sheroes and Heroes before me, about the concept of defunding the police. But and my thought towards that is a defund to the police is a refund to the people. And the reason that I say that is because when I look at opportunities all this time in politics, that we have seen the defunding of education, we have seen the defunding when it comes to the health disparities in our community. But we're looking for a refund for our opportunities in education. We're looking for a refund in our opportunities of the health disparity gaps in our community. We're looking for the opportunity when it comes to broadband, and we're in 2020, and millions of Black people across this country still don't even have access to internet, yet having access to a device. And so we see all those things as critical as well in our movement. Because when we think of justice holistically, I don't want to just limit Black people.
You're muted now. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I'm saying we have disparities and all these other issues. And so I don't want us to, for folks to just limit Black people to these of criminal justice and law enforcement, because we have so much more room to go. We're trying to grow when it comes to gaining wealth in this country. Like we have, and so when we're asking for legislation, we're not only asking for the address of the lack thereof from folks who are supposed to protect and serve, but we're looking holistically at a country that just not doesn't work for some, but works for all. And so, and even from the historical context of it, when we think about when the Constitution was even created, we have to understand that it didn't have Black people in mind. It didn't have us in mind because we were still considered property. And so when we're thinking about rebuilding and doing and for a system that wasn't even designed for us in the first place, there's so much work to be done. And as I said before, we don't want to become complacent in what we see, but we take the steps because we accept the victories, but we understand that it's still so much room still left to go. So I mean, it's good to be here in the conversations and to and to be at the table, but I think it's important for us to continue to push for not just half the cup, not just a quarter of the cup, but we're pushing for the whole damn cup. And so that's me.
I wanted to go ahead, Ashley.
No, go. I was supporting that. Amen. Go right there.
Dominique was now Ashley. Sorry about that, guys. We did a little sister switch on y'all. But I do wanted to bring in Minister Marshall into the conversation. Tyleek, if you can stay, please, because now we're talking as we're talking about, and we are about to plan a large demonstration happening in DC, Washington DC, on August 28th. And there are numerous hearings and things that's going to be going on leading up to that date. But we want, and so we want to keep people engaged, and we want to keep people safe and engaged and activated. But we also want to also understand, Tyleek, you know, the multi-levels and the different facets of activism, and how we not only demonstrate, but we also, you know, pushing the legislation, and we're also, you know, organizing these large demonstrations, and we're also doing, you know, doing various other things in our various communities, the food distribution that we do every day from National Action Network, trying to deal with, you know, addressing food insecurity during COVID. So there are the different layers to the activism that we encompass at National Action Network. And I just think that young people sometimes miss, you know, they see, you know, Reverend Sharpton on the news, and they're like, oh, he just want to, you know, be for the cameras, but they don't understand, you know, the work that goes behind and the layers of the work that go behind, you know, the media platform. So I think that, you know, you, Minister Marshall, Chaplain Cole, we had DJ Put On that was on with us. If you all can just speak to that and speak to the various roles, you know, Tyleek, you know, you just organized a massive demonstration right in DC. You know, like, people don't understand how difficult that was. Some young people may feel like at the end of the day, I have a voice. I feel like I'm angry and I want to speak up, but I don't know how to organize a march. I don't know how to, you know, I don't know how to do that. So there's a disconnect in certain areas with young people and those who feel like they're engaged and those who feel like they're just active or not active enough. Can you speak to that and ways that you're trying to, you know, bridge that and bridge that communication?
Wait, can I add to that as well? Because I know we have 20 minutes left on it, but I just wanted to lift up the name Rashad Brooks. Everyone knows we're all fighting still for Ahmaud Arbery. We're all fighting still for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, but also Rashad Brooks. His video has gone viral. Two black men, Malcolm Harsh and Robert Fuller, were found hung. I mentioned that earlier. And black activist Oluwatoyin Safai, she was an activist. She was found dead. So literally, while
Black
y'all
Lives Matter activists.
Yes, Black Lives Matter activists. So literally, Tyleek and Kyra and those of you, we literally saw y'all from the field last week. You literally just got in from March. And on top of that, I just came from the funeral of George Floyd. And literally on top of that, on top of fighting for that, on top of trying to figure that out, or how you actually make sure those fights go all the way across, Put On, Stephen, Devin, all of you all, Malaysia, Aaliyah, on top of our fight, then another fight, another death hits us. We see another two of our brothers killed, hanging from trees literally in 2020. What do we do about this? What are we doing about this as we gear up for this march? I just wanted that to be added into the conversation, because we can't act like this is not going on outside. This is going on outside, and it's traumatizing. I don't even want to repost a video of what happened with Rashad, because I don't want to traumatize my followers.
I can't.
It's crazy.
At this point, it's crazy, and we just got to keep rolling. That's it. Like, here's the real problem. The problem is that we keep getting distracted. I'm glad the NBA ain't on for once right now. We keep getting distracted and stuff. We keep finding ways to get distracted. It keep going on, so we got to keep going on, and that's it. Like, that's really it. There's no stopping the situation. Like, every day you got to keep on just rolling with it, because you got to keep on remembering. It starts with self still, like I said. It starts with self, and again, technology. We keep pushing it. I did what I could to post as much of that video as I could. I couldn't post the rest because the rest ain't even relevant. I won't lie to you. That's why I didn't post the rest. Not because we don't want to see it again, because it ain't relevant. We should have never been there, so I'm not posting that. That's it. And that's what we're going to keep on pushing. That's it. That's why everybody plays a part. If you can push legislation, push legislation. If you can march, march. If you know how to do what you do, do what you do, because it's our time to do what we do. That's it. That's all. Be the best leader we could be and do it together for once. That's it.
That's right. Amen. Next. Come on, Cole.
Go right there. Okay. Can I throw a word?
Chicago. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, real quick, but before we do it, Chicago's on fire. We say Chicago's a problematic area. We need to organize and hit Chicago as well, not just to demonstrate in D.C. That demonstration in D.C., we understand. It's proven. It's demonstration, though. We need to march and rally in places like Chicago, in places like in Atlanta. They did. I mean, listen. I wish I was in Atlanta. You feel me? Like, I wish I was out there in Atlanta. You know, it was to the point where I got people that was down in Atlanta that somehow their vehicles got stolen. That they drove down there from New Jersey. So it was chaos down there, and that's what it needs to be for these changes to happen. Period.
All right, Brother Leah. DJ Put On.
Mm-hmm.
Straight from Jersey.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, Mother Kennedy.
Okay. First of all, the thing is that, yeah, I'm angry. And I'm like, yes, I'm glad they're taking it to the streets. But I'm an original Black Panther. And, you know, I want to know where the hell is the new Black Panther Party? I want to know where the hell are the new weathermen. I want to know what the hell is going on. Excuse the language, but
it's all we all together right here.
How much longer are we going to sit, cry tears, watch our men, children, women being plowed down, knocked down, killed by the police?
But here's why I ask you. I have to ask you. How do we do it? Tell us, how do we all organize it as one, though? It has to be one information stream. It can't be a Black Panther Party and a National Action Network and this. No, we all have to be together on what we do. So how do we do it?
All of us to come together. You just got through saying those people that legislate, let them legislate. You said those people let them march, let them march. I'm saying time for Black Panther Party to come on out of the closet or whatever the heck they're doing and organize. Because originally, the Black Panther Party was organized for self-defense of the neighborhood.
But what about us, National Action Network? Why we can't do that?
No, National Action Network is all. We're all a part of this, my brother. There is no separation.
Yeah.
I think this is my point, though. I think that's my point, though, is that we don't need to call for Black Panther Party. We're here right now. We're on the phone. What do you want us to do?
I hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. And on that note, if I may say something to all the younger people out here, man, you know what? Bobby Seals and Huey Newton. Huey Newton was 21 when they started the Black Panther Party. You know, so the youngins, y'all youngins out here, y'all keep doing what y'all do. I'm 51 years old.
You talking to us. I'm trying to tell her that you talking to us. You talking to us live in action. Talk to us.
One voice, one mic. At the end of the day, I just want to add this in. Bobby Rush was in the Black Panther Party, and now he's a congressman. So at the end of the day, there's different steps in this fight. At the end of the day, like Lead is saying, he's down. He's basically saying that he's down to be out there and do what's needed. And Mother Kennedy is, I understand what you're saying, but I think you missed what he said. He's basically saying I'm right here. You don't gotta call me new Black Panther. Just call me. I'm Lead. I'm DJ Put On, and I'm right here. So there's soldiers out here, and that's what I was trying to say earlier. We got soldiers that's ready to go in the field. We got a different kind of soldiers that's ready to hit the tweets and fight for legislation. And we got lawyers. We got different types of soldiers. But that's, I think, what you were saying, Mother Kennedy, is that we all have different lanes, and we can all be in different lanes, but all be in the same exact fight. That's what that's what the Huddle is for. Is basically to huddle up and basically get our marching orders together, get our ideas together, and go forward in our lanes. We might not all be driving. We might not all be in the street on the ground, because some people can't march any longer. Some people's legs are too tired. My mother has marched enough, so she don't have to do that no more. Now it's time for us to do that, but we need to do it properly, strategically. That's why I was talking about the economic push. The economic push is very, very important. There's a day on I believe it's July 7th that they pointed out this year that no Black people, nobody should spend money with any white people. And that's basically what it is saying. It's basically to put an economic push on July 7th for no one to spend money only in Black and brown businesses. And basically, I believe that's something that could work. I was part of the founding people of Boycott Black Friday. And at the end of the day, I know the economic push works, but it's very, very hard for our people to all work together, because everyone is saying, oh, that's not going to work. How is that going to work? How will it work if you're questioning it? All it takes is for you to do is to participate. So if you participate and you make sure those in your household participate, and your friends and family, then that's a whole bunch of dollars that was just saved as far as the boycott. So I really want us to speak to that. I wanted Mother Kennedy to speak to that, and I really wanted Lorianne to speak to that. And I see you, Crux. I got you. I see you back. I wanted you guys to speak to the economic push, because I don't think that we can be taken more seriously if we impact the economy in America. This system is ran on dollars. So if we take control of our spending, of our buying power, for once, then we can make an impact. That's what I'm saying.
My sister sat a sister got removed from a bus. Was it 40 years ago? And then we stopped, and when they were hurting, they stopped that bus boycott because they was hurting. Because when Rosa Parks got arrested, everybody boycotted the buses, and guess what happened? They was hurting. Their pockets was hurting. And like the young brother said earlier, you know, we just got to not get distracted. We got to keep at it. You know, how many of y'all going to DC? You know, I'm going, you know, y'all know I'm criminal profiler, so I'm going to point out on Facebook all the undercover cops that are there. So I'm gonna call them out. So I'm gonna be out there.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Amen. Go right there.
It's like playing. It's like guess who the air marshal is? We're gonna be out there taking pictures of all the undercover cops because they tell on themselves.
Right. Lisa on the line.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-police. There's 17 of us in law enforcement in my family. My mom calls us the black version of blue bloods. And you know, so don't get me wrong, but the bad ones out there just leave a bad taste in their mouth. Yes. Bad taste in my mouth. Y'all check out that story, man. Don't think bad about me. You know, I'm in a good place now, but y'all check out that document I sent. That really did happen. Really did happen by my own officers. And I often wondered if I was white, would that have happened to me? Because 3 other officers said it happened to them and they didn't get arrested.
Mm-hmm. We need to bring that to the table, especially with our crisis liaisons on the line. Patrice is on the line. William Allen is not on anymore, but Derek is also on the line. We need to take that to them and definitely have a private conversation with them and you, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
But we definitely want to continue to push what happened. David Mims, I know, is also
I'm ready.
He also had a personal experience with the police officers, and that's how I personally first met you. But that's what our crisis team does. We deal with the crisis situations and make sure that it's properly handled. I just don't want you to share everything on this live, open Facebook.
Oh, no. I mean, yeah, when I go on TED Talks, I'm telling the world about it. So yeah, it's gonna be on.
We have 13 minutes, and I really do want us to get back to the economic push.
Yeah.
Lorianne, I want you to speak to it. I also want you to speak to. I see you, Lucy. She's one of our great educators in the Bronx. Her children are literally what she deals with. Our children, our kids, is who she deals with every day. And I wanted her to speak to what's going on as far as our education. That is also an issue as far as our resistance. If you don't know better, you can't do better. If you don't know your history, you won't know how to avoid going and repeating the same mistakes. So our education, teaching our babies, literally from Black history to American history, they need to know it all. So that's important. So I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I wanted to have you, Lorianne, speak to the economic push. I wanted you, Lucy, to speak to education push, and then I wanted to briefly go through to hear from Tyleek, going back like where we are right now in this current state of affairs in America for Black people. I just wanted us, as I know Tyleek, you are a frontline activist. I know Bria, you are a frontline activist. I just wanted all of our activists, Stephen, I know you're a frontline activist with Nan. Right now, our young people, when we're not out, youth is fleeting. It's a fleeting word because everybody becomes, if you're blessed to see life, you become old, hopefully. That's the goal eventually, right? So, but at the end of the day, this time,
proudly.
Right, but at the end of the day, this youth, young and old, is used wrong to me in this movement. And it's like, oh, the youth do this and the youth do that. We were all young before, and eventually somebody will be younger than you, and you have to move out the way for them. But you don't have to move all the way out of the picture. You stay in your lane, you drive, and you do what you got to do. Right now, it's frustrating for people that's under the age of 35 right now, that's going through what life as we know it. First of all, period, before race, before anything, trying to live and grow up in America. It's hard on its own. But then basically every day somebody's showing you that you don't matter, or your voice doesn't matter, or you or we don't want to hear from you, or we don't like you. We don't want you to drive. We don't want you to cook. We don't want you to hang out outside. We don't want you to do nothing. You can't even breathe, Doc, because of the color of your skin. That's a problem. That's frustrating. And you become resentful towards the elders who was on the front line prior to you. And you feel like, oh, y'all doing something wrong. Something they have not done quite right. But at the end of the day, once you get into the fight, you realize, they were doing it right. This is just not as easy as you might have thought it was. Because we're fighting a system. There's so many things set out against us. So I want you to just end this forum with encouraging words of why you continue to fight, and just one thing that we can keep that keeps your eye on the prize, or maybe this is gonna happen, or this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm out here every day. So I know I just said a whole bunch, sorry, but I wanted to hear from Lorianne Lumsby on economics, Lucy on education, Tyleek, Bria, and then we can wrap it up with our speakers, if that's okay. Dominique, and I'm gonna turn it back to you because I know I just took over the whole program. Go ahead, Lorianne.
All right. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so a lot of the okay, from all the research I've done, one of the most overlooked parts and one of the most important parts of the dominance of white supremacy is how they have blocked us financially by not paying us and then by brainwashing us into believing that their material things and whatever they produce, their products and services are more important than anything we can do. We have now funded them. You understand? Like I was looking at a movie the other day where Madeleine Albright was one of the beneficiaries of how they, when the Europeans migrated to the United States, it wasn't the United States at the time, but when they came to America, a lot of them were giving money to set up businesses and they were given land. We weren't given anything. We weren't even paid for our labor. You understand? Then when we did manage to pull us up by our own bootstraps, even though we weren't given boots, we were denied access to money, grants and loans and stuff, even though we had the qualifications. You understand? We were not given the opportunity or access to resources to be successful. When you look at, like, for instance, you look at the products that we buy every day. This is Vaseline. This is lotion that we use. There are no Black-owned lotion companies. There are no Black-owned water companies. There are no Black-owned many companies that we use. The top 10 companies that we use their products: Nestle, PepsiCo, General Mills, Kellogg's, Associated British Foods, Mondelez, Mars, Danone, Unilever, Coca-Cola, Nestle. None of those companies are Black-owned, not one. And that is the problem. Our own products and services, we are forced to go outside because when we did have opportunities to get and start those companies, we were denied business loans and the grants. So white supremacists have covered all bases. So we have to cover all bases now to reverse the problem. Another thing I've noticed is the top 6. I actually just posted this on my Instagram. The 6 companies that own most of the media. Is National Amusements, which is Summer Redstone. There's Bob Iger with Disney. There's Jeff Bezos with Time Warner, and Brian Roberts with Comcast. None of these companies are Black-owned, so they control our media. They control what we see. What we ingest, food, we have to ingest healthy food. What we ingest, media, we need to ingest healthy media. When we did have Black-owned record labels, we were promoting positivity. We had groups like Public Enemy. You understand? They dumbed that down. They promoted gangster rap. You understand? They studied psychology, so they understand what makes this world work. And they have dominated every aspect of it. They have convinced us Black people that we are inferior. And then I saw a little girl arguing with her mom and her dad about why Black people are treated like this. And white supremacists have convinced some white people that statistically we're not eligible for anything. We don't qualify for anything. Now, the younger generation is what's going to change this. You understand? Because they're now arguing with their parents. They're saying, hey, wait a minute, mom, dad, I know you've been taught that racism is okay, but what makes it okay? Don't you see that these are people that are human beings that just don't have access to resources? Like, for instance, the COVID, it's affecting us. Why? Most Black people don't go to the doctor. You know why? We don't trust the doctors. Tuskegee, that'll tell you. They experiment on us. You understand? They inject viruses into us in Ebola. Then they have the pharmaceutical companies. The white supremacists have the pharmaceutical companies on lock. You understand? There are no Black-owned pharmaceutical companies. Then we do have people like Dr. Sebi mysteriously disappear when we can heal ourselves. You understand? So they have dominated so much. It's not only, there's no just one thing that you can focus on. You have to focus broadly on everything, and it's gonna take unity. Unless we get together as a people, like, I'm so passionate about this, I literally have to sometimes, my mother's like, calm down, girl, you about to have a heart attack. I wanna get out there, but I'm older now, I'll be 45 next month. There's certain things I can't do physically. You understand, anymore because of, what other health, like I survived breast cancer, uterine fibroids. You understand? These are things that happen to us because When you're mentally oppressed, it affects you, every decision you make, every relationship you're in, how you see yourself, how sensitive you are to how other people treat you, how you spend your money. If you feel like crap, and there's a white commercial from L'Oreal that says, hey, if you just blonde your hair, you know, you can look like us. But what makes you say that how you look is correct? Now we're funding, we actually go out and buy the L'Oreal products. But guess what? There are no Black-owned companies. So if we focus more on building businesses, like there's a lot of programs out right now for minority business owners. If you want to start a business, we need more of that. I would rather Michael Jordan fund that rather than Black Lives Matter, because you know, I mean, I don't want to put everything out there, but I don't believe that's not our organization. You know what I'm saying? We didn't do that. You understand? We need our own stuff. You understand? And the people out there making the money, like Black Lives Matter, their billionaires are donating to that. That's how they can spray paint Black Lives Matter leading up to the White House. What does that do for us? You understand? Okay, so it's 1,600 Black Lives Matter away. Okay, cool. But how does that help the little kid over there that can't afford breakfast? You understand? Then you have the Black Panther Party that started the whole Breakfast Before Books program that churches like FCBC and certain other organizations are continuing. I mean, those are the things that we need to put our money to. Like the young people, I would tell them, do not go out and buy a pair of $200 True Religion jeans. Where's True Religion right now?
Well,
all of the names that you wearing, where are they right now? Gucci's quiet, Fendi's quiet, Kate Spade, everybody's quiet. Where are these people? But yet you want to go out there and shoot each other over a coat or some sneakers. No. Now they say Michael Jordan is funded for years. He didn't fund the community. I was against him. You know, I'm going to investigate a little bit further to see where the money's going, because if it's going to Black Lives Matter, it doesn't really matter. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, financially speaking, we can't just only focus on finances. We can't just only focus on voting. We can't just only focus on certain things. We have to combine, like those guys, when they sit down, I'm telling you, the major heads of those families that really run the world, trust me, they're united, both young and old, from babies all the way up to the oldest one. You understand? They're unified. And unless we get that way, we're wasting our time. And that's what frustrates me the most. I'm not saying that we're wasting our time, but unless we unify, we are wasting our time. It makes no sense. Nelson Mandela, I love it. Like, I went to South Africa, I went to Robben Island. I actually went in the jail cell Nelson Mandela was in. You understand? But we have been fighting this fight from before he did all those years in South Africa. Now this is 400, 500, and a lot of people talk about the transatlantic slave trade, but they were Arabs enslaving us before the Europeans came and did it. You understand? So there's so many levels to this. Unless we approach all of them from a broad term and really take it serious, because it gets hot for a minute. The media is doing what they're doing because they're part of it. They're brainwashing us. They're putting how many people die from COVID, how many cases. I want to see cases of people who have overcome COVID. You understand? Because there are more of those than there are people dying, and they're brainwashing us. They're controlling us through that, and it frustrates me because I see through it, and I can't get people to turn the news off. You understand? Like, stop watching the news. Go get a booster shot. Get a shot of wheatgrass before you have your breakfast in the morning. You understand? Be financially smarter with your money. Stop wasting your money with these people that don't like you. They don't like you. They don't want you wearing their clothes, but they'll take your money. And you understand? And then with Reverend Gamora Kennedy, this is Pride Month. We have this as a similar issue with the churches. Like, a lot of churches don't like gay people. They take gay people money. No, we got to stop all of this. And it has to be like, either you care about us or you don't. There's no drawing the line.
They like the organists, and they like the people that play the music for them.
Yeah, you'll sing a song from a gay man
that Sunday morning sermon.
No, you're absolutely right, and that goes to the All Black Lives Matter. I must steal that, because when I saw that protest happening, and it was for All Black Lives Matter, but I feel like it wasn't just for me. I'm gonna take it a little step further. To me, it's not just only about homosexual and heterosexual. For me, all Black Lives Matter means all Black lives. So that's old, young, fat, skinny, gay, straight, rich, poor. You cannot say Black Lives Matter if that means except some Black lives.
Except
Don't say
some.
it. Don't say it. Black Lives Matter mean all Black Lives Matter. You shouldn't have to even put the all in it because that's divisive. So exactly what you were just saying, it doesn't matter who you like and who you don't like. If our lives matter to you, then all of our lives matter. You can't say, oh, Al Sharpton, sit down, Black Lives Matter. He's a Black life, brother. He's a Black life too, sister. So at the end of the day, our leaders and those the lowest amongst us on the train. If that Black homeless life doesn't matter to you, then you shouldn't be up there screaming Black Lives Matters. Because at the end of the day, all of us are included in that. They don't care who you are, what you got, if they trying to shoot you outside. They just see the color of your skin. So we need to understand that as a people, to completely unify, we have to take all of that all the blinders have to come off. And we have to be inclusive to ourselves because they completely broke us apart here. So now it's on us to bring ourselves back together again. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lorianne, but that really just spoke to me.
No, but you're exactly right. And I also want to point out to you that this to the group that this is also a residual effect of if anyone in this feed has ever read the Willie Lynch letter. Yes. Now they say it's a fictional letter. You understand? But that whole light skin versus dark skin, old versus young, male versus women, it's all division. We all need each other. At the end of the day, I know a lot of powerful Black gay women. I know a lot of powerful Black gay men. But then you'll have artists out here. I'm trying not to say his name. Okay, I'll say his name. But men like Lord Jamar, I don't support those lesbians. Now listen, a lot of these masculine men, if y'all are intimidated by women who have to stand up and hand for themselves, then that's your issue. Psychologically, you need therapy. You understand? A lot of these people are intimidated by people like me for no reason. Why not partner with me? The part of where as human beings, where you're strong, I'm weak. Where I'm weak, you're strong. Well, switch that. But you get what I'm saying. We all are different. We all have strengths,
and they're killing all of us.
It's not about division. We need to be unified. We need to be united. That is the only way we're going to affect change. It doesn't make sense. There are less than 200,000 people within the 1%. There are 7 billion people on Earth, more than that.
Right.
But yet the 200,000 of them and their families control the rest of it. That makes no sense.
Right.
And like my pastor said, organized people beat organized money.
This is all the education. That's what I was going to say. This is the educational piece. And I think that I loved when Malaysia spoke earlier and spoke about the fact that representation matters. When we came to the Bronx, to the Evander Childs campus, I had to make a point to bring in some of my high school kids because although it was a great program they had planned that day, they didn't invite any of the high school students, despite the fact that there were 6 high schools in the building.
I didn't know
and
that.
there were students that wanted to come, and they were only allowed in ultimately because I was there to have them come in and kind of give their assurances that they would do their part behaviorally. But that just goes to show the way in which they're portrayed, because a lot of the people working in the schools, a lot of them do look like us. And the reality is that there are studies that still show that when you look at a classroom behaviorally, a lot of times the kids of color are the ones being looked at. You know what I'm saying? They're being watched. Therefore, those are the behaviors that are being noticed, of course. It's not that the other students aren't acting out. It's just that those aren't the ones that are being watched. And so I think that the youth definitely know and understand, and they need more people in the schools that look like them and will advocate for them, even when it doesn't get easy. Because the reality is, when it's not easy, rather, because I think the educators are there to educate, and myself as a social worker, it's a bit different because I have an understanding of some of those dynamics that people are dealing with outside of the school building, outside of the classroom. And I realized the ways in which I was blessed, because some of these public school settings aren't really ones in which our kids even have the tools that they need in order to grow and develop, similar to their counterparts in private schools. Another example, even in that same vein, like we said, we know that the schools are being funded by the property taxes in the community. I think in addition to defunding the police, you need to spread those monies evenly across systems, because the reality is that if you're fortunate perhaps to live in an area like, for example, my sister went to a public school in Westchester and Somers, New York. That public school system versus the public school system in the Bronx, there's no comparison. There's no comparison of the two. And same thing with the private education that some of us have been fortunate to receive. The resources in the schools just aren't the same. I went to a private school here in New York where I didn't even have to take reading exams. Yet I had students coming to me on a regular basis crying, and doubting, the trajectory of their lives really based on a test that, had they been born to other circumstances, enrolled in a different school setting, they wouldn't have even had to take. I think that there are a number of things put in place to kind of sometimes deter us. And that's even as we go on to adulthood. I like to point out, because I have a master's degree, if I had to take a GED exam, the math portion, I'd probably fail. And I tell that to my kids that I mentor, because it's important for you to realize that it's just a matter of the opportunities that we have and the educational steps that we take. Because the reality is that while we can't control everything, we each have a role to play. And education really is the piece. So we have to put our place in spaces and create these opportunities to share this information with each other and to support each other and encourage each other while we're doing it. I think the financial literacy is definitely a piece that's significant. I have a youth group myself here in the Bronx, and we made sure to have a financial literary piece. And I'll make sure that our mentor kind of shares her information with you, and maybe we can do a similar forum again, because the reality is if financially we don't know how to spend our coins, right, then that's part of the problem too. We even had a conversation about the Black dollar and how in the Asian community, in the Jewish community, that money stays in their community for about 30 days.
Right.
Our community, it's about 6 hours. That's comparison. It's about 6 hours. So, no, definitely. And so the reality is that I think education is key, because the public system, the systems in this country weren't created for us. Right? We know that. We know what the Constitution says. We know how they regard us. And so if this is a system that was not for us, we can't then depend on it or those that are in power in this country necessarily to be the ones who will create a just system. We have to, those of us who are enlightened or educated or fortunate enough just to be privy to this information, continue to share it. And so I think that's really where it comes in, because the kids, just like Malaysia said, they want to hear it. I have my babies who I miss from my school, and we're going to start a little Zoom lunch date kind of thing because they want to hear it. But the reality is I had kids who were juniors and seniors who had never heard of the school to prison pipeline. And they were men of color, boys of color. And I had to tell you, the target's on your back. How you never heard of it? You know what I mean? Kids that didn't know how to fill out their application, like the envelopes, how to address an envelope. How can you be a senior in school and you can't fill out an envelope? But at the same time, I had to also realize some of these students only have maybe one pair of shoes. They have struggles also that I never had to face, right? So you have to have that balance and be that ear. So I've bought meals, I've bought sanitary products. My husband, he's one of those, God forbid he get a crease on the sneaker, he's ready to throw it out. All them shoes, we have kids we might as well have adopted, and they're excited. They're in the whole like, miss, check me out, posted with their sneakers and stuff. But the reality is that not only do they appreciate it, but they can tell the difference. And like I said, I was at a school, it was supposed to be a school of the arts, and it was a great school environment, but guess what? There were no arts. There was no music teacher. There was only an art class. So if you have a school of the arts and we're sending our kids to this public school expecting that they'll be, able to engage in various different types of arts, and there's none, then that's the biggest disservice of all. That's a disappointment from the time they get there. The hallways, Ashley, you had the opportunity to visit. It smells like marijuana.
Smoking in the hallway, yep.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, and the reality is the things that are being focused on sometimes are just so unimportant, where the other things that you could be pouring into are just so easy. It's so easy to be present, you know what I mean? And we have some really good people in this district up in the Bronx that are in office that are supportive. I know that you all have had our Councilman Andy King on before.
Yes.
To, the youth and everything. So when you have leaders of power, like those in your family or like those in our community, like I think that we have to partner with them. I know that for myself, my youth group is through the National Council of Negro Women. And we definitely plan. I already done had the conversation. I plan on being there in August. I plan on our section being there. I want my kids to be there. And that's what it's about. We have to support each other.
Right. And I just want to say thank you
kids.
for all you do on the front lines in the Bronx. And we have to do more. We have to do more and follow up with you. I want to do what you just said. I want to do a school to prison pipeline huddle, and I want to do a financial huddle. So I want to talk to you about that, maybe partnering with your group. And we have a new representative in the Bronx, David. You know David, my god brother. So I want him to work closer with you. So
I'll give it to him for sure.
Definitely. Thank you for sharing. I know it was for the moment.
It's fine.
It's 9:10, so we have a few more minutes to go. But technically, I just wanted to let everyone know this will be the end of the Huddle COVID series, not the online virtual huddle, but just the topic being the COVID series. We're going to start a gun violence series and actual activism 101 series. So, but tonight will be the last of the NAN Huddle COVID series. So thank you all for tuning in with us these last 8.
Ash, we got to do one more. We got to do one protest march for the one we did last year.
Yeah, Peace in the Streets. Peace in the Streets was June 1st last year, 2019, and COVID-19 took us out. So there have been some people suggested a virtual march. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but people are in the streets, so I believe we should huddle up and get in the streets. I think we should do 1,000 youth march.
Let's do it.
1,000 youth march against racism and for change. And I want our young people, of course, Aaliyah in Malaysia, who I challenged on the line today, of course, Pinnacle and Dominique, who we always see, Christopher Lane, St. Angel, all of our huddlers who we see sometimes online, but we definitely used to see in person every Monday, will be leading that. So 1,000 youth march, I'm putting the challenge out here on National Action Network's Facebook Live and Zoom. For those who are tuned in, we need you. We need your youth groups. We want you to partner, but we need our youth leading this. This will not be youth figureheads. This is youth led. So we need youth to lead this and organize this. That means those under the age of 23 is considered youth. The rest of us will be, our old selves will be there to help you advise and organize. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to hear, before we get off of this COVID series, I just wanted to hear final remarks about where we're going, the current state of affairs, and just staying positive and staying hopeful and staying on track and not getting lost in the darkness that is literally right outside our doors. Derek, one second.
Quickly, I want to just...
Mother Kennedy, 1 second, please.
Yeah, quickly. I just want to share this home remedy, because the home remedy is working. You know, it doesn't taste good, I tell everybody, but it works. The thing, you get red onions and garlic. You mix them, crush them, and put it together. You put a quarter of a teaspoon in everything you eat and drink. No, it don't taste good. And, you need a lot of breath mints and Listerine or whatever else you need. But what it will do, it will strengthen your immune system and cleanse your blood. Okay. And in that way, because I've been on this since people been laughing at me, but I don't even care. I've been on this since they first had the shutdown. I have not had a sniffle. I haven't had a cough. I haven't had no scratchy throat or nothing. I stick by that home remedy. Also, we go into Washington, we need to have little bottles of alcohol wipes. And also, that is the most important thing. If you have a mask, you put a little bit of peppermint oil underneath the mask where it goes across your nose. Okay, these are things that are simple, but they work.
That's right. And they can be utilized, like she said, when we're going outside, we're marching, we're mobilizing. Make sure you use exactly what she just said. I'm going to have to write it down. I'm going to have to rewind and go back because I didn't get to write that down. Thank you, Mother Kennedy, for that and for all that you have sacrificed on the front lines and for joining us tonight and being a voice on this panel, on this forum tonight. Thank you for your sacrifice and for just being you, Queen. And we all hope to be like Mother Kennedy and the catch.
Hey, you take care of your body, it will take care of you.
Yes, amen.
Amen, Mother Kennedy.
Right, Derek, take us home.
Yes. So what we got to do, guys, sum it all up. We got to keep fighting. We got to keep marching. We got to keep making our voices heard from all injustice that's going to be committed. And again, I hate to say it, there will be some injustice committed. Racism is out there. It's systemic. It's systemic. However, how do you remove racism from one's heart? So this is a fight that we're going to have ongoing. All hands on deck. I'm dug in with you guys. I'd rather be with you guys in the foxhole than anybody else. So I just want you guys to know that. Thank you.
We love you, D. We love you, Big D, and we'll follow you to that foxhole and out. Kyra, I don't know if you're on, but if you want to add any closing thoughts before we go off. Miss Kyra Valley. Okay, I know she was sick, so sorry. Patrice Perry.
Hi, I'm on.
Oh, you're on. Great. Yes, Kyra Valley. Let's go.
I've been listening. I want to thank you all for your remarks. Like Derek said, wouldn't want to be in this fight with anybody else. So much love to everyone here. And yeah, I've been on. I have the craziest migraine, but I'm always inspired by Huddle.
We love you, Kyra.
So
we love K Valley.
Literally, and she's a young soldier, and I admire her literally. But she's one you should follow and get into the fight and follow her. She's been leading the fight in DC, and she's been helping to lead NAN ever since she got on staff. So salute to you, Kyra, and thank you for your leadership. And please get some rest. Miss Katrina J. I'm sorry.
One thing to say. I have one thing to say.
That's Patrice Perry, one of our advisors and our crisis liaison who I was speaking about earlier.
Yes, hello everyone. I just want to remind everyone that's on the call today, if you can find 5 people in your circle, in your job, in your home, in your Facebook, Instagram, encourage them to join National Action Network. Right. This work cannot be done without money. We need y'all to get members to join National Action Network. Go to the website, donate $1, $5, $10. This is going to cost money to do the things that NAN wants to do. I know we all have 5 people that we talk to within the 7 days of the week. Call them up, tell them to join National Action Network. Go to nationalactionnetwork.net. That $5 you're gonna spend on that ice cream you shouldn't be eating anyway, give it to NAN. It will make a difference and it help us change the world. Thank you all. Stay strong. Remember, the change comes from the mirror that you see. Be the voice that people need to hear. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Go right there.
Katrina J., would you like to add any closing thoughts? She serves uptown at the House of Justice and in the Bronx. She's been serving since March. The end of March is the beginning of COVID. She and Stephen Marshall, who you saw earlier, has been leading the efforts to Operation Feed Harlem and Operation Feed the Bronx. There's also sites in Jersey and Miami and different chapters around the nation. But Katrina has been leading, and they have given over 500,000 meals away in our partnership, National Action Network's partnership with World Central Kitchen and Care.org, I believe is the name. Also, yep. On Sunday. And thanks to Reverend Sharpton and Robert Smith for making this possible. But Katrina is at the head of that ship. And I just wanted her to say a few words before we close out today on our last Huddle COVID series. Huddle.
Am I muted?
No, you're up.
Oh. I just want to say it's incredibly inspiring, especially coming from somebody who has actually, as indicated, has been literally serving since March 21st, 6 days a week, and then 7 days a week when we opened up with Sylvia's also on May 17th. It is inspiring to see so many young people out on the front line and certainly being engaged as part of the civil rights and social justice movement and creating a new normal for themselves as young leaders. I just want to say that it's inspiring, and I'm inspired every Monday that I come on, and I'm grateful to be able to serve, and I look forward to continuing this level of service. And I would encourage each and every young person to, encourage 2 others to get involved as well. Don't let this be a conversation that only you participate in and engage in every week, but invite others to be a part of it as well so that we can all become the change that we wish to see.
Amen. Goes right there. Thank
Amen.
You.
Go right there.
Served. Bria, would you like to add any closing thoughts before we go off today? Bria, great.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi, Bria.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This was a really powerful discussion, and I was happy to be a part of it and listening to older legends and seasoned legends in the movement. I just wanted to pick up Toyin's name that you mentioned earlier, the 19-year-old Black Lives Matter activist who was assaulted and killed in the last couple of hours. We found out over social media, so I just wanted to speak her name, say her name, and share her story, so that we continue in this fight for change. But that also means all Black Lives Matter. And women, our Black girls, our stories sometimes fall on deaf ears, like Breonna Taylor's story. We need to really say these Black young ladies' names and fight for change for us all. But this was an empowering conversation. So love you all. Love you. Love Huddle.
Thank you, Bria. Thank you for lifting her name. And yes, that's very, very important because a lot of
I'll
women
always be screaming inclusivity, guys and gals, gals and guys, men and women, boys and girls. Inclusivity, guys and gals. Gals and
Trayvon,
That's right.
Trayvon, our advisor, would you like to add some closing thoughts? You've been on every week and you've been quiet, but you have a huge role that you play in Huddle. Always on the front line.
Okay.
Trayvon Butler?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, thank you everyone for participating in our series. I know this is unprecedented times. This is really one of my favorite Huddle sessions that we had. Some of the discussion I was talking about how to get involved and different ways to get involved. Any experience and sometimes availability is the best ability. Whatever you can do, we've all done different things on our end to kind of get our voices heard to make sure we have a common message. Even if you're just out there reaching out and supporting, you know, each one of us to make sure that we get our voices heard and make sure that we push for not just legislation, but push for a better community. We have some different things coming up within the next couple of weeks to the next couple of months leading up to the March on Washington. So let's not stop, you know, with the marches and the rallies. Let's just keep the momentum going so that way we can, you know, make sure the next generation has, you know, the tools that they need to get the things that we didn't.
Amen. Malaysia?
Right there.
Malaysia Freeman?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, Queen.
My last few words is I just wanted to say that these past couple of weeks have been really good, and I'm glad that everyone has still stayed active even through even with the pandemic and everything that's going on. But I want to say that I learned my perspective has now changed because I always thought like, oh, when I say like the youth get involved, I'd be like, oh, like the youth take the lead. But now I think like, oh, all our generations should combine because we each have knowledge of our own and we have to work together in order to make the change and make the difference. So, yeah.
Proud of you, girl. Proud of you. And as you go to college, that's important.
Go right there.
You to lead. You're one of the baddest young leaders I know. And I'm not saying that because you are president. So you continue on your fight, and we literally all have watched you grow up, Malaysia, like literally. And don't stop. Don't stop for nothing.
Can't stop.
Won't stop. Doing it.
Yes.
We need you. We need your voice. We value you, and we love you. So just know you're going out.
Thank you.
We got your back. They better not mess with you, and if they do, they're gonna be sorry.
Amen. Go right there. You mean that literally.
To your mom, Tammy, because without her, you would not be the young woman that you are today. So thank you thank her for sharing you with us. Sincerely. Chaplain Cole, Lisa Harps, Chaplain Sandra, y'all are all our NAN family. So I just wanted to, any closing thoughts before we close out today? I'm gonna give Lorianne the last word because she lit it up today.
Yeah. I'm just gonna say this is Chaplain Sandra. I am just so proud of you all. I've been out of your loop for a while, and I've been doing my own thing in the Boogie Down Bronx, and also just connecting, just really networking and connecting with the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene for services for people with mental health. There's a lot of anxiety out there. There's a lot of depression out there. There's people just don't know what's going on anymore. And so I am pushing for jobs and peer specialists to come out and help people, and for insurance so it can pay Medicaid, Medicare. I'm also just really in awe of all of what you guys are doing. I mean, my God. God knows my heart. So, you know, if you interrupt me, then I forget what I want to show my love, but you know where I'm talking about. I love y'all so very much. I really want to get on that boycott, the economic hit them in the pocket. That really fired me up. And the Juneteenth that's coming up, I want to invite y'all to an event. I need Nan to come and just fill up the place. And I'm just really very proud and just to know you and to love you and call you my family. That's what I want to say. Love you.
Queen. Thank you for your leadership, Chaplain Sandra. Chaplain Cole Crux, Lisa.
Happy Pride to everyone. And now is the time. Now is the time to be your most engaged. This is an amazing time to be alive. And if you're not engaged and in touch, then you're doing it wrong. Right. So I look forward to seeing everybody back here next week. Bring a buddy, bring a friend, tell them that the action is going on right here at National Action Network in the Youth Huddle.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Go right there.
Mims, Ocean, Lucy, any closing thoughts, Crux? I'm gonna go to Dominic and Lorianne.
Just having a great time here. I love it. I'm gonna be back next week. So I'm gonna tell Fran.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. Last one, Dominique. Mims, David Mims. Okay, Lorianne, take us home.
Yeah.
Nobody want to add anything? Lorianne, it's on you.
All right, gals and guys.
Guys and guys. Lorianne, take us home, please.
Okay.
Oh wait, can I make one note?
Sure. Go ahead.
Just I've been listening a lot the last hour or so, but I would just like to encourage all my fellow Black brothers out there. I know of 100 Black men. They're doing a silent march, I believe, for Juneteenth this Friday. So that's going to be very important. We need to have more Million Man March type things.
Where are they meeting?
Of course, I still have to into a lot of the details, but I know I'm going to certainly be on the front lines there as well.
Okay.
So
I'm going to look for that and share that on Nan's page. Thank you.
Great.
And thank you for tuning in tonight, Jason.
Hey, Ashley, I'm sorry. My mic was off.
No
One thing I want to add is that I'm trying to organize. You know, I know it's June 25th is the day that Michael Jackson died, and I wanted to show like a tribute where like I wanted to dance like at the Hoyt Skim Hoyt subway, and I was trying to hoping that if you guys can help me, like, you know, if we can like do a tribute dance to him.
Okay, that I can't answer for everybody. That I guess you have to.
Nice show tribute because, you know, that's one of our legends.
Yeah. You play Atomic Dog, I set out the hop. So
I mean, I could bring a speaker if you want.
Okay, I'm gonna let y'all do that. We're still on Facebook, guys. So we're gonna close in thoughts. Dorian and Dominique, Mommy and Poopy, we see y'all. Love y'all. Our youngest huddler, Marcus Al Sharpton Bright. Hello. And we do this for you. This is why we out here. We have to protect and make this a better world for our young people, for our babies, those who don't even know what's going on.
Sweetie, say hi.
Hello. I'd like to say something. I've been hiding. This is my first time being on the huddle. My name is Roxanne Hunt. I'm a member of NAN in Philadelphia, and I'm starting up a youth group here in Philadelphia, but I'm having some challenges that I'm running into. So if somebody could just post a phone number or something that I can talk to someone to help me get started. And
Derek Perkins. The information right here in the chat, and you can call us tomorrow, and we can help you get that.
Come on, sweetie.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you so
for
much.
could you do that for Indiana as well?
Okay.
Because I don't think we have a NAN in Indiana.
Dominique Sharpton is our NAN membership director. So
Okay.
he can put all of that.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi. Say hi.
There's the Prince.
Oh, there he is.
Hi.
Got it. Y'all hear me?
Oh, say hi.
Oh my God. The Prince.
Papa.
Okay.
My Wi-Fi keep going down.
Papa, say
All
no
right,
peace.
Larry, take us home, Larry.
Papa.
All right, so I want to encourage everyone out here. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi signal keep going in and out. I'm sorry. I want to encourage everyone here. Every time you go to buy a product, look at the manufacturer of that product. You understand? If you can find a Black-owned version, try to get it. Now, it's going to be hard, but try to do it. As far as these designers go, try to support your own. There are little mom and pop shops around that design their own clothes. I would rather you guys spend money designing your own clothes than to keep buying these guys' clothes. You understand? Because they're funding the system. Wait, I think I froze.
And TT, look at TT.
You got it. You got it. Go ahead.
I froze.
Lorianne, go ahead.
You hear me?
Yes.
Now, also, what I would like to encourage all of you to do is to look within your community. See if there is a business need, a void that you can fill. Like, there are plenty of niches out there. If you if you know how to make deodorant, why not write a business plan for your own deodorant company? If you know how to make lotion, make a business plan for your own lotion company. There's plenty of money out here now. A lot of people have, like, even when you guys get your, I don't know, if people are getting stimulus checks and all that, instead of going out and spending money, invest in something. Look into buying stocks. Like, if you don't know how, there's economics for dummies, there's stock investing for dummies. Take some time, use this time right now to educate yourself, because it's only gonna get worse. The reason why there hasn't been a lot of change is because the people that would be responsible for the change, they have all the money. So unless you're affecting their dollar, their pockets, they don't care. You understand? Right now with the media, it's selling. The bad news sells. You understand? I posted something about Nathan Rothschild, how he funded both sides of the war, the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. Same thing with Sheldon Prescott Bush and how they raised Hitler up. It's all about money. It's all about finances. If you guys can learn how to manage your money well, there's nothing we can't do. You understand? The powers that be have the money, but we have the opportunity to change that. We fund them. So if we stop funding them, we're going to be great.
Amen. So I'm gonna wrap it up. I think everybody has said everything needed to be said tonight. The things that I wrote down that we can learn from tonight, as usual, is use our economic power, utilize our economic power, and control your dollars. July 7th is the national day that we all are supposed to be unifying together and not spending any money as far as with anyone outside of our businesses. So that is July 7th. Make sure we start with that day and we go forward. But you can start tomorrow. But July 7th is the day that we're doing it.
Is it just July 7th, or is it for like 2 days, or how long?
As far as what I saw July 7th. That's why I say you can start there and go forward. I don't want to give out any.
I think we should start that for the same length of time as the Montgomery bus boycott. If we do it for a year, we forced them, like Rosa Parks, Dr. King, they forced the people to change because the power of the dollar. They didn't want to pass that law, but because we weren't taking the bus and we were walking everywhere, they saw how our money put them where they were. So,
and we need to create a list of Black-owned businesses.
Changed everything, and that's what we're really going to affect change.
Amen.
And check out this website, WeBuyBlack.com.
WeBuyBlack.com. Let's put that in the chat. So WeBuyBlack.com, typing that in, economic power. Also unify and drive in your lane. Everyone has a lane. Just drive in your lane and you won't even be worried about where the next person is along their journey. Drive in your lane. As Leah had told us, no change. We can't go fight for change unless you start with the change inside of you. Start with yourself. Look in the mirror and figure out what's wrong, what's right, what you love, what you don't like, and fall in love with yourself, because the only person you can be on this here life is you. So
amen, go right there.
Yes.
And the only change, the first changes you should be working on is on you. Lastly, I think Royce Russell told us to fill the void. Fill the void was important. Fill the void, whatever the issue is, was that Stephen Marshall, Minister Stephen Marshall said that fill the void. Whatever that is, fill that void. And Stephen Marshall also said there is no losses in the movement unless you stop.
Yes.
So if you continue to keep going, there is no losses. We might have took a loss on some battles, but we didn't lose the war. So you keep going until we win that victory for all of our people. And we want to thank Minister Stephen Marshall for letting us know, leaving that word with us. That was a quick word. Also, unify, and of course, vote. Some of you, if you don't vote, that's on you. That you are relinquishing your power. But I believe in the importance of voting, and we cannot lose sight of what is going on this year. One of the important day of the year is in November, when we get to elect a new president, hopefully. No, not hopefully. We will speak that into existence. So make sure you are registered to vote. Make sure that if you are outside protesting, activating someone, having a forum, whatever, you are registering people to vote. You are making sure they have voter information. They understand when the primaries are. There was the whole big issue in Georgia about what happened on primary day, but there was still amazing voter turnout. So make sure you stay woke. Make sure you stay in the know. Also, our first thing that we started with today was Black history. So make sure you are doing your history, reading your books, doing your own research, and knowing the facts, so that if something is said on the huddle that's wrong, you can say, nope, not Ash, that was wrong. Actually, this is how that works. So make sure we need to be our own teachers, our own professors, as Lucy said, and make sure we teach our babies what they need to know, because they're not going to learn everything in school, they're not going to learn everything in college, and they're not going to learn everything online. So we
All
need
right.
to make sure that we are teaching our babies and creating our own narrative for our people as we continue on this struggle for justice, change, and equality. We love y'all. We thank
Ashley,
y'all.
the primaries in New York State is on the 23rd.
The 23rd, yes, that's right.
That's
Absolutely
for New
right.
York. Next
Absolutely
thing is hug your body and thank it for being with you all these years.
That's right. And we always salute our elders. Much love to Mother Kennedy. We will be nothing without the shoulders that we stand upon. And salute to Reverend Al Sharpton, who created the National Network, who we love, and we pray for our leader. Thank you all again. Mr. Freeman, our president of Huddle, we love you again, and we thank you for your leadership. And Dominique, thank you for co-hosting tonight.
You're welcome.
Thank you to all of our speakers, and thank you to our leadership. And we hope to see you next Monday, if we don't catch you in the street protesting and lifting up our people.
See you guys.
Always have it, always. Love y'all.
Good night.
Great job. Everybody boost up your immune system.
Yes.
Boost up your immune system.
everyone.
Love you, Trayvon.
Love you guys.
Come on, sweetie.
Power to the people.
Love you all.